各位來賓、各位線上睇緊直播嘅朋友，大家早晨！非常之歡迎各位今日出席亞太區中小企 ESG 論壇。呢個論壇係由香港工業總會主辦，並由香港特別行政區政府工業貿易署工商機構支援基金撥款資助㗎。我係今日嘅大會司儀林嘉瑤嘉嘉，大家好嘛？請熱烈嘅掌聲，我哋歡迎晒現場咁多位嘉賓同埋線上面嘅朋友，你哋好。首先呢，非常之感謝處理商務及經濟發展局局長陳百里博士、莊主席以及各位業界翹楚、學者同埋嘉賓嘅蒞臨同埋支持啊！隨住全球對環境、社會及管治即係 ESG 議題日益重視，港資企業尤其係中小企喺供應鏈管理同埋生產流程中實踐 ESG 原則，已經變得係前所未有咁迫切同埋重要啦。為咗促進港資製造企業之間嘅合作同埋共同探討應對全球可持續發展同埋合規要求嘅策略，我哋特意舉辦今日嘅論壇。非常之榮幸，我哋邀請到陳百里處理局長蒞臨分享，並且有嚟自亞太區唔同領域嘅企業代表同埋專家學者，同我哋一齊交流全球 ESG 合規嘅寶貴經驗同埋策略。希望大家可以從今日嘅論壇當中獲益良多，攜手推動企業可持續發展。而家我哋就首先有請香港工業總會主席莊子雄博士到台上為我哋致歡迎詞，有請莊主席。
處理商經局局長陳博士，非常之多謝你今日過嚟支持。陳博士咧，佢好支持業界，好支持工總。首先非常之多謝。咁各位業界朋友、工總嘅朋友、各位線上嘅朋友，大家早晨。咁首先非常之歡迎大家參加今日香港工業總會舉辦嘅亞太區中小企 ESG 嘅論壇。咁今日都好開心，因為一早呢，呢一區都今日都好多喜事，咁但係大家都全場都爆滿，咁即係非常之多謝大家嘅支持啦。咁呢個都體現咗業界呢對個 ESG 嘅重視，大家都想了解下而家 ESG 特別喺亞太區點處理呢？因為面對而家特朗普嘅關稅咧，大家對於唔止喺香港、喺中國、喺亞太區 ESG 係更加關心嘅。咁而家持續嘅全球性嘅趨勢咧，香港業界對 ESG 嘅關注咧係有增無減嘅。咁各地嘅政府近年都係積極訂立對氣候啦、綠色啦、減碳項目，針對企業嘅環境、社會同管治 ESG 啦，即係 ESG 啦，個法例同監管嘅嗰項政策都有唔少嘅新嘅法例推出。咁作為另外一個 stakeholder， 投資者同顧客咧，對企業點去履行 ESG 咧，個期望都係提升咗好多啦。咁所以 ESG 對企業營運咧係而家係唔係選項，係一定要去做嘅。特區政府咧積極推進2050年實現碳中和嘅目標，為我哋國家嘅雙碳嘅目標作出貢獻啦。即係話2030年前咧，我哋要實行碳達峰，同2060年咧要實行碳中和啦。呢個係一個非常之重要嘅目標。咁我諗各位在座嘅企業家嘅參與呢係非常之重要嘅，冇大家嘅參與，基本上係可以做唔到嘅。咁其實呢，喺 ESG 嘅概念推出之前呢，實工總對環保、社會責任等等呢都參與好多，都係其中一個先行者。舉個例，我哋嘅中銀香港企業低碳環保領先大獎呢，就已經喺2015年已經係推出。咁每一年呢，係吸引超過900間嘅企業參加。咁我哋喺2013年呢，都舉行咗工業顯愛心嘅計劃。 咁呢個都見證好多企業積極嘅履行社會責任、關懷社會、對環境嘅重視。ESG 對企業管治嘅好處呢，大家都唔使多講㗎啦。咁唔單止可以優化供應鏈啦，減少碳足跡啦，可以大大提升企業嘅形象啦，建立顧客同投資者對於品牌嘅忠誠度同信任度。為協助業界對 ESG 嘅挑戰，剛總喺2021年我哋已經成立咗 ESG 嘅委員會，希望透過知識嘅交流同埋人才嘅培訓，協助業界去履行 ESG 嘅管理啦。今日嘅中小企 ESG 論壇呢，正正係反映我哋工業總會對於呢件事嘅針對性。我哋都想促進港資，特別係港資製造企業之間點去做 ESG， 可以同大家分享下應對全球可持續發展嘅合規嘅要求同埋個策略。今日嘅論壇呢，陣容真係非常之鼎盛，匯聚咗各領域嘅專家，包括有學術界嘅代表啦、製造企業代表啦，仲有銀行、審計公司嘅代表。我相信透過呢個討論嘅環節，大家可以全方位去了解，可以建構可持續發展供應鏈挑戰同埋應對嘅策略。同時呢，我哋會討論喺香港企業面對歐盟 ESG 合規要求嘅策略，促進企業轉型同埋拓展市場，增加企業嘅發展動能，為國家同埋香港嘅碳中和嘅目標呢共同努力。透過各行業代表深入嘅交流，分享成功嘅經驗，可以使到港資嘅製造企業同亞太區廠商嘅代表更加深入認識 ESG 議題對我哋嘅影響，同時咧對企業分享嘅經驗得到啟發，將把握 ESG 升級轉型呢係促進我哋嘅可持續嘅發展。最後呢，我要再多謝我哋嘅署理局長陳百里博士，佢喺百忙之中都抽時間參加我哋呢個論壇，非常之感激。咁都非常之感謝所有嘅業界朋友啦，所有會員今朝嘅參加，我都要多謝線上嘅所有朋友參加今日嘅研討會。希望呢透過大家嘅分享，可以線上線下嘅朋友可以滿載而歸。多謝大家。
多謝晒莊主席，請莊主席就座。接住落嚟，我哋有請香港特別行政區處理商務及經濟發展局局長陳百里博士為我哋致開幕詞。有請陳博士。
莊主席、各位嘉賓、各位朋友，大家上午好。我好高興出席今日亞太區中小企 ESG 論壇，借今日呢個機會啦，同在座各位業界朋友見面交流，為大家打打氣。首先啦，我要恭喜，亦都要感謝香港工業總會舉辦咗今日呢個非常之有意義嘅活動啦，有效提升中小企對可持續發展理念嘅重視，並且係付諸行動嘅。咁我好高興見到今日啦，亦都有好多中小企嘅代表參與當中啦。透過大家相互交流、相互分享你哋嘅實戰經驗啦，從而啦去提升我哋各自企業嘅 ESG 表現，亦都係藉此啦為香港整體嘅經濟、為我哋嘅社會增值嘅。相信大家都會認同 ESG 係全世界嘅大趨勢。正如剛才主席亦都提及啦，唔同嘅企業以至唔同經濟體嘅政府啦，都好着力咁去推行ESG 相關嘅項目。事實上，安定、穩定、安全穩定嘅環境啦，呢個係和諧共融嘅社會啦，以及啦就係良好嘅企業管治啦。咁呢啲咧都係嚟自世界各地投資者嚟香港投資，以及啦就係專業人士嚟香港發展其中幾個重要嘅元素嚟㗎。 要確保香港持續發展，要確保我哋能夠繼續前行，推動 ESG 啦係一環重要嘅工作。咁所以今日啦，我好高興見到工總以至在座所有嘅有心人、有心團體啦，我哋一齊參與今日嘅盛舉啦。咁我哋一齊去鼓勵中小企去愛護環境啊，去愛護關心員工啊，去關懷社會啊，去樹立一個良好嘅榜樣啊，從而啦，亦都可以讓我哋香港啦成為一個可持續發展嘅城市㗎。嗱，對於一啲嘅大企業或者一啲嘅上市公司嚟講啦，咁其實好普遍佢哋嘅 ESG 理念啦，已經係融入到佢哋嘅企業管治啊、佢哋嘅業務流程啊，同埋佢哋嘅財務報表當中㗎啦。咁但係對於一啲嘅資源有限嘅中小企嚟講啦，喺佢哋推行 ESG 嘅過程當中，佢哋可能面對唔同方面嘅困難同埋痛點。咁例如啦，就係合規成本嘅上升啦。咁例如啦，就係一啲嘅中小企嘅員工，佢對於相關嘅專業嘅知識啊，或者相關嘅技能啊，唔係咁熟悉啦。咁所以啦，中小企喺推動 ESG 嗰陣時啦，係需要更多嘅資源，亦都係需要更多嘅專業協助㗎。咁所以今日啦，我好高興見到呢個活動，透過唔同嘅專題探討、唔同嘅分享環節啦，為中小企去提供相關嘅資訊啦，亦都係幫助中小企係將呢個 ESG 嘅理念啦融入到佢哋嘅業務運作當中㗎。咁所以喺呢方面啦，我就期待業界嘅朋友啦，繼續努力加油啦！特區政府尤其是係我哋商經局啦，作為業界朋友嘅合作伙伴，作為大家嘅堅實後盾啦，我哋亦都會繼續推出唔同嘅舉措啦，去配合大家喺 ESG 方面嘅相關嘅業務發展㗎。例如我哋工貿署轄下嘅BUD 專項基金啦，我哋已經係更加針對性咁去幫助大家去推行一啲嘅綠色轉型嘅項目㗎。嗱，係可以獲得資助嘅一啲嘅細項啦，就包括就係為開發新產品而進入一啲嘅目標市場而需要進行嘅碳審計啦，又或者係為咗一啲嘅目標市場，為咗符合目標市場嘅一啲嘅環保標準啊、環保嘅規定啊，而要打造嘅一啲嘅升級嘅生產線啊，或者新嘅技術等等㗎。而可以獲得資助每個項目啦，嗰個最高嘅資助額啦係去到80萬元㗎。咁另外啦，我哋嘅 TSF 啦，我哋嘅工商機構支援基金啦，呢個亦都係為我哋嘅工商機構啦去提供一啲嘅支援啦。咁亦都係協助佢哋推行相關嘅項目，從而啦去促進企業嘅競爭力㗎。咁呢啲項目啦，就係包括為我哋嚟自唔同行業嘅中小企啦，去評估同埋披露呢個碳足跡啦，同埋去管理一啲嘅碳排放啦，藉此啦去應對呢個係環境氣候轉變帶嚟嘅一啲嘅挑戰㗎。咁當中啦，我哋亦都係譬如今日咁啦，今日我哋呢個亞太區中小企嘅 ESG 論壇啦，亦都係我哋 TSF 呢個工商機構支援基金裏邊其中一個資助嘅項目嚟㗎。咁至於喺資訊分享或者資訊提供呢方面啦，咁我哋工貿署轄下嘅中小企連線啦，我哋已經係推出咗一系列嘅一啲嘅相關嘅網頁啦。咁當中啦，亦都係為我哋中小企提供相關嘅資訊啦，包括就係例如減碳啊、碳排放啊、碳審計方面嘅一啲嘅相關嘅資訊同埋最新發展啦。咁同埋啦，就係一啲我哋嘅當中嘅內容啦，其實就涵蓋本地以至境外市場嘅一啲嘅譬如係碳排放相關嘅貿易政策同埋相關嘅規定嘅要求㗎。咁就希望啦，就係透過呢啲咁嘅措施啦，透過呢啲資訊啦，可以幫助我哋嘅中小企啦去了解相關嘅發展㗎。咁當然啦，我哋亦都係有我哋嘅中小企服務中心啦。譬如我哋講緊係工貿署啊、貿發局啊、就係生產力局啊，以至我哋科學園啦，其實各自轄下咧，亦都有個中小企服務中心啦。連同我哋商經局資助嘅中小企支援組，咁單喺今年啦，我哋已經係推出咗或者舉辦咗5個 ESG 相關嘅一啲嘅研討會啊，或者線上線下嘅一啲嘅論壇㗎。咁嚟緊啦，我哋會繼續去推動相關方面嘅活動嘅。各位嘉賓、各位朋友，香港擁有超過34萬間中小企， 佔咗我哋嘅企業單位嘅總數啦，係超過98%，咁係我哋經濟一個非常之重要嘅組成部分。如何可以幫助我哋中小企去發展甚至去受惠於 ESG 呢方面嘅大趨勢啦？呢個係值得重視嘅課題。咁嚟緊啦，我係非常之期待同我哋嘅業界朋友，包括就係在座各位嘅持份者緊密聯繫，我哋一齊去推動中小企喺 ESG 方面嘅發展。咁最後，祝願今日嘅論壇圓滿成功，在座各位生意興隆、身體健康、家庭幸福。Thank you。
多謝晒，請陳博士留步，並請移步到台中間位置呢，我哋準備呢就影合照嘅環節啦。為咗紀念呢個特別嘅場合，我哋將會邀請各位嘉賓呢到台上一齊影合照嘅。首先有請香港工業總會主席莊子雄博士，香港工業總會常務副主席林世豪先生，香港工業總會常務副主席陳偉聰先生，香港工業總會常務副主席環境社會及管治委員會主席陳婉珊女士，香港工業總會副主席環境社會及管治委員會副主席周志平先生，香港工業總會副主席岑建偉先生，以及香港工業總會總裁陳心如女士，俾多啲嘅掌聲，令我哋歡迎晒台上咁多位啊！而家我哋一齊影第一張合照啦，大家可以向左手邊移一小步嘅，然後請大家可以親密少少。先面向我哋台前中間嘅大會攝影師鏡頭嚇，好預備，3、2、1，一齊俾個 like 啦！然後請各位嘉賓都望一望我哋最後排嘅攝影師鏡頭啊嚇！請大家 hold 住呢一個點讚，呢個大力嘅點讚支持我哋中小企 ESG。然後請各位嘉賓繼續留步，接住我哋想邀請立法會議員陸漢文議員到台上參與合照。以及係泰國駐港副總領事 ，May I invite Deputy Consul General of Thailand in Hong Kong, Ms. Renada Chamshalam, to join us on stage for the group photo-taking section。俾多啲嘅掌聲，我哋歡迎晒兩位嘉賓 ，Welcome all our guests。Let's take a group photo together. Please face our official photographer in the front。好，先望一望我哋台前中間鏡頭 ，Ready, 3, 2。1. Would you please give a thumbs up, give a big like to our APAC ESG Summit for SMEs? 然後嚟到最後排嘅鏡頭啦 ，Would you please face our other camera at the back? Thank you. Please remain on stage. 有請各位嘉賓繼續留步。接住我哋想邀請一眾論壇講者到台上嘅。May I now invite our summit panelists to join us on stage? May I welcome Mr. Riichi Alai, CEO of Alai Paper Recycling Co. Limited. 華僑銀行香港可持續發展及可持續金融主管陳思寧女士。Mr. Michael Kapp, CEO of Pergamon Labs and board member of German Chamber of Commerce, Hong Kong. Inrest HK Co. Limited 董事總經理林冠雄先生。兆榮鋼鐵有限公司執行董事龐心怡女士。Lala Move 企業事務總監李志鵬先生。夏信控股企業有限公司執行董事陳思敏女士。香港大學氣候及碳中和研究中心項目經理林曉東先生。香港科技大學環境研究所首席發展策略師陸恭蕙教授，以及係戴麗斯集團可持續發展總監黃啟俊先生。歡迎晒我哋咁多位嘅嘉賓講者，而家我哋望一望攝影師嘅指示啊！請先面向我哋台前中間大會鏡頭 ，Please face our official camera in the front. Ready? Also, please give a big like, our thumbs up. Thank you so much for your support. 非常期待我哋嘉賓講者稍後嘅分享㗎。然後請大家嚟望一望最後排嘅大會攝影師鏡頭啦。Please also face our other camera at the back. Thank you。有請第一排嘅嘉賓繼續留步。Thank you for the first row of guests. Please remain on stage。同時，我哋有請工種環境社會及管治委員會委員李志鵬先生都繼續留步嘅。請其他嘉賓咧可以先行就座。Thank you. Would the other guests please be seated? Thank you so much。接住落嚟呢，我哋想邀請工種環境社會及管治委員會委員、一眾支持機構、香港新型工業發展聯盟嘅代表到台上加入合照。包括有環境社會及管治委員會委員張益倫先生同埋葉詠雪女士。繼續有請香港總商會環境及可持續發展委員會主席黃兆輝教授，香港中華總商會對外事務委員會副主席金志成先生，香港金屬製造業協會會長孫楚強博士，香港五金商業總會常務副理事長林志宏先生，以及係職業訓練局環保及可持續發展事務處副處長鍾詠儀女士。歡迎晒咁多位，請後排嘅嘉賓呢係確保望到前面鏡頭嚇。好，後排嘉賓呢，大家可以向右邊移一小步，親密少少嘅，麻煩晒。OK， 請先望一望我哋台前中間大會鏡頭，預備3、2、1，唔少得咧，一齊心俾個 like 嘅，非常好，好有氣勢啊！然後咧，我哋就交俾我哋會場最後排嘅攝影師 ，Ready, 3、2、1。我哋一齊以最熱烈嘅掌聲，多謝晒台上各位嘉賓。請各位嘉賓可以返回台下就座，準備咧就影張全場大合照噶。Thank you all our guests. Please be seated。喺開始下一個環節之前呢，我哋一於同現場嘅所有來賓影張全場大合照哦。大家安坐喺座位上面就可以噶啦。同時呢，我哋嘅工作人員會為前排嘅嘉賓呢，就係送上一啲精美嘅拍攝道具 （photo props），令到呢一張合照嘅效果呢係更加色彩繽紛、更加完美啊！嚇咁後排嘅朋友都會清楚見到你哋㗎，唔介意可以除低口罩啦，同埋咧望住我哋台上面嘅大會攝影師啊！嚇。好，我哋先嚟第一張㗎啦喎，預備好前面嘅鏡頭先，我哋可以向鏡頭揮揮手，拍緊片嘅，非常好。OK， 跟住咧交翻俾 Terence 啦。好，預備3、2、1，再嚟多張，我哋全場來賓一齊俾個 like 啦。Ready, 3、2、1，OK， 然後到拍片啦，有請咁多位嘉賓咧，望一望我哋拍片嘅鏡頭，揮揮手，大力俾個 like 嘅，多謝晒大家支持 ESG， 俾多啲嘅掌聲以示支持，好唔好啊 ？Thank you， 多謝晒咁多位。作為推動亞太區 ESG 發展嘅重要樞紐，香港咧唔單止係國際資本同埋企業佈局全球嘅門戶啊，更加喺區域供應鏈中扮演住舉足輕重嘅角色。要把握 ESG 帶嚟嘅各種機遇，緊貼住內地同埋周邊地區碳市場嘅最新發展同埋政策變化係尤其重要。今日咧，我哋非常之榮幸啦，係邀請到港大經管學院金融學教授、特首政策組專家組專家巴曙松教授為我哋發表主題演講。咁雖然巴教授咧因為臨時公務未能親臨現場，但佢早前已經預先以視像嘅方式錄製咗佢嘅寶貴見解。而家咧，請大家一齊細心聽下巴教授嘅精彩分享，俾啲掌聲啊！
非常高興今天有機會參加我們香港工業總會主辦的這個亞太區中小企 ESG 論壇啊。我認為 ESG 是目前非常受關注的一個焦點的一個話題。那麼在全球主要的資本市場，大的公司啊，基本上已經開始在着手推動了。那麼中小企怎麼應對這個新的局勢？我認為是一個非常值得我們認真去探討的一個新的課題。那麼在全球的金融市場啊，大家非常關注巴菲特的年會啊，一位90歲的世界級的投資家，是吧？他 在召集年会的时候，全球的投资者来跟他交流，看看这也是观察全球金融市场的一个风向标。那么在2025年刚刚举办的巴菲特的股东大会上，问的为数不多的问题里边，就有2个是跟 ESG 相关的啊。一个就是有人问，第21问就说你怎么应对因为野火导致的责任事故问题啊？这个涉及到这个保险啊这些方面的情况。还有一个问题就是说，你燃煤发电这个排放的这个温室气体导致全球的气候变化，这个应该怎么应对啊？这个题目我就觉得实际上反映了越来越多的人，无论是企业还是投资者还是金融机构，都在越来越多的关注 ESG 的话题。而 ESG 从开始各个经济体、各个国家和地区自己独立的探索，开始越来越多的走向一个全球的标准的趋同，形成共识啊。2021年的11月，国际财务报告准则基金会宣布成立国际可持续发展准则委员会，这个就是我们大家经常说的 ISSB。他负责制定国际财务报告可持续发展披露准则，也就是大家说的 ISDS。那么在2023年6月26日 ，ISSB 正式发布了它的首批准则，就是 IFRS 的 S1， 叫可持续相关财务信息的一般要求，和IFRS S2 气候相关的这种披露的这些标准，这些准则是从2024年1月1号起生效。但是呢，各个国家和地区、各个经济体可以自行决定是否以及何时采用。目前，全球许多国家和地区已经计划将 ISSB 这个准则纳入到本国的 ESG 信息披露体系这个里边，包括我们香港，同时也包括新加坡、英国、美国、欧盟、加拿大啊这些日本、澳大利亚这些经济体。我们香港是享誉全球的国际金融中心啊，因为 ESG 它会影响到全球的资金流向，影响到企业的投资回报啊，影响到这个不同国家的经贸往来，所以这么积极的采纳，我认为是完全可以理解的啊。那么 ISDS 的框架示意图，大家可以看右边，是比较简洁的描述了这个 ISDS 的架构。比如说，就包括一般要求的这个猎豹啊，它的主题是一些比如初步的要求、气候的、行业的要求，按照每个行业进行披露。同时呢，我们看到它既包括治理，也包括战略、风险管理和指标以及目标啊这些方面。我相信，无论是大企业还是小企业，在面对这些基本原则的时候，我们可能都是基本要遵循的啊。所以这个是为什么我们值得要了解的。而香港作为一个国际金融中心啊，也是一个国际的航运物流的中心啊，连接不同的经济体啊，发挥着超级联系人的作用。所以，及时的遵循国际规则非常重要啊。我们可以看到，这个 ISSB 标准呢，它就是目标，就是要成为以投资者需求为核心的全球可持续发展报告的基准，并且已经获得了广泛的国际的支持。香港已经承诺在2028年或之前，强制要求上市公司以及具有一定规模的非上市金融机构全面采用 ISSB 标准啊。那么香港会计师公会我们看到已经由2024年12月发布了香港标准，这些标准与 ISSB 的标准是完全一致的。所以我们香港说披露这个可持续发展信息披露路线图，在实际上也就是它怎么去具体的执行这些国际的标准。 我们看到香港的几个主要的金融监管机构都先后研究推动各自的监管对象，银行、证券、保险、基金这些各个上市公司来积极的采纳这些相关的香港的标准。香港的新气候信息披露要求从2025年1月1号起生效，我们已经生效了现在已经2025年了，并且将分阶段实施。这些披露要求我们从对照一下就会发现，它是非常紧密的与国际财务报告准则 IFRS S2 的气候相关披露中的4大核心支柱标准是对齐的。所以我们可以看到，香港在积极的落实跟进可持续发展信息披露的路线图这样呢并且积极的在推动在香港的不同领域的落实。那么从交易所的这些市场的本身来看，可以看到它也成为非常重要的一个趋势，就是要求强制上市公司发布ESG 的信息的披露大家可以看这个图表上根据联合国可持续证券交易所倡议组织 SEE 的 ESG 披露指南数据库，截止到2025年5月，加入 SEE 的交易所达到134家，其中73家交易所已经发布了 ESG 的披露的指引占比达到54%。那么其中38家交易所发布了强制的上市要求ESG 披露要求，占比达到了28%。那么这些都是世界上比较主流的交易所大家知道，在全球的交易所的那种市场份额里边，可能前10大的交易所才占全球的市场份额market cap 可能就能占到70%-80%80%-90%甚至更高的比例。所以这实际上ESG 的披露已经成为全球主要交易所的一个大致的共识。那么证券交易所指导文件中引用的报告工具里边 GRI 和 SAAB 占比达到95%和81%，所以这也是值得我们无论是大企业还是中小企都值得关注的一些重要的工具要求当然这些具体的 ESG 的要求的实施也经历过不断的调整监管者和企业共同的协商，找到一个双方都觉得合适的一个均衡点。那么有的地方可能开始定的标准过于激进，那么看到对实体经济制造业影响比较大，可能就会做一些微调，有的可能进展慢，也会做一些加速的推进所以这也是一个不断的在试错中改进、迭代、更新的这么一个过程。你比如现在近期我们看到主要的发达国家尝试着在降低 ESG 的这些合规的成本比如欧盟，它在简化和放松了 ESG 的这些要求2025年2月26日，欧盟委员会就决定简化企业可持续发展报告指令 CSRD 和企业可持续尽职调查指令 CSDDD。 那么企业可持续发展报告指令它的具体的内容就是 CSRD 的适用范围从原来员工超过250人，并且净营业额超过4000万欧元的企业以及所有上市公司，它把它调整为员工超过1000人，并且净营业额超过5000万欧元。那么有大量的中小企业在这里稍微暂缓了一下，约80%的这些中小企业得到了豁免往后实施。那原定于2026年和2027年实施的报告要求被推迟到了2028年那么企业可持续尽职调查指令，它的尽职调查范围从全价值链缩减到直接的商业伙伴，监测的频率从每年一次放宽到每5年一次，所以大幅的减少了企业的日常经营的行政负担。所以方向还是继续，但是呢， 怎么执行的让企业的合规成本不至于过高，我们看到不同的监管机构也在灵活的在做一些调整。那么可以看到，但是总体从标准上来看，欧盟和美国的碳关税对企业的碳排放的管理能力提出了更高的要求，这也是值得我们重视的。2023年10月1日，欧盟碳边境调节机制 CBAM 它的法规开始实施，对从境外进口的钢铁、铝、水泥和化肥额外征收5%到20%的关税。2025年，欧盟把 CBAM 正式实施时间延后到2027年之后，制定了更为严重的惩罚举措，对分拆进口规避关税的行为可能面临3到5倍的罚款。那美国也在酝酿类似的清洁竞争法案，宣称对于超过美国产品平均的这个碳含量的进口产品需要交纳碳关税这也是很重要的一个政策的趋势。那我们中小企业要积极的应对这么一个全球的 ESG 的新形势。这个对于大企业来说，中小企业普遍资源有限，你可能很难全面的去推动 ESG。那怎么找到一个适应中小企业的现实状况和方案的这么一个路线和策略？我觉得需要包括香港工业总会在内的这些我们的这个中小企业的这些行业组织和协会共同行动起来，清晰的了解这些规则的要求，同时也更精准的了解我们中小企业的现实状况，在中间探索找到适用中小企业的这些 ESG 的披露的简化的模板我们看到这个渣打香港中小企领先营商指数这个调研里边，2024年4季度的调查，只有9%的中小企我们香港的设立了明确的 ESG 目标，如减碳排放、减少能源消耗以及促进社会责任。此外，多达96%的企业表示在执行过程中面临着挑战，所以我们中小企业非常有必要积极的行动起来，在这个必然的趋势即将到来的时候，及早做好准备及早应对积极探索适用中小企业现实状况的 ESG 披露简化模板，同时也要自我赋能，初步建立一个碳排放的披露、计量这些方面的能力，同时也积极做好 ESG 的合规的应对。这样我们在不同的国家这个和经济体之间进行经贸往来的时候，能够这个避免受到这些政策的约束和冲击。所以这也是我们觉得今天我们香港工业总会这个组织这么一个亚太区中小企业 ESG 论坛，我觉得具有非常重要的现实意义和针对性。预祝會議成功，謝謝大家。
嘉教授嘅精彩分享相信大家咧都深刻體會到 ESG 涉及嘅範疇咧，其實係非常之廣泛嘅，相關嘅政策措施同埋合規要求亦都不斷咁更新。企業喺將 ESG 理念融入日常營運同埋供應鏈各個環節嘅時候咧，往往會遇到唔同嘅挑戰嘅。為咗俾各位更加全面了解亞太區以至全球 ESG 嘅合規趨勢，同埋唔同行業點樣將 ESG 落實到日常嘅營運，我哋今日咧特別就係邀請到多位嚟自唔同行業嘅代表，同我哋分享一下佢哋嘅見解啦、經驗啦，同埋應對挑戰嘅方法。咁今日嘅討論環節咧，將會分為2個部分嘅。第一部分嘅主題咧就係構建可持續供應鏈挑戰與對策。第二部分咧就會聚焦歐盟 ESG 合規實踐，香港企業破局之道。每一節咧，除咗有台上面嘅講者分享同埋討論之外咧，都會預留少少嘅 Q&A 問答時間嘅。歡迎我哋現場嘅觀眾咧，可以踴躍發問啦。而線上參與嘅朋友都可以喺直播平台上面輸入你想問嘅問題㗎。事不宜遲啦，馬上開始我哋今日嘅第一節討論。先請嘉賓咧到台上影張合照先啦。有請今次嘅主持香港工業總會副主席、環境社會及管治委員會副主席周志平先生。 第一次我哋好榮幸邀請到5位嘉賓參與討論，包括有華僑銀行香港可持續發展及可持續金融主管陳思寧女士 ，Mr. Michael Cap, CEO of Pergamon Labs and board member of German Chamber of Commerce Hong Kong, Inres HK Co Limited 董事總經理林冠雄先生，兆榮鋼鐵有限公司執行董事龐心怡女士。And Mr. Riichi Alai, CEO of Alai Paper Recycling Co. Limited. Let's take a photo first before the start of our panel discussion. Please get closer and closer, please. Please face our camera in the front. 先請各位嘉賓咧望一望我哋台前中間大會攝影師鏡頭。Let's give our thumbs up. If you like, we all look forward to the coming panel discussion. 請咁多位嘉賓咧望一望最後排嘅。攝影師鏡頭啦 Please also face our another photographer at the back. Excellent. Please be seated on stage. 多謝晒咁多位嘉賓，請各位咧喺台上就座。我哋將以下嘅時間咧交俾呢一節嘅主持人 Jude， 有請。
Good morning, everyone. We just heard from Professor Bao talking about how listed company and major financial institution is going to have an obligation to have ESG disclosure. He also mentioned that there's a big gap, between the listed company, the big company, and the SME. So today we are very delighted to have practitioners, to have experts to share with us this panel in this specific topic. Mr. Alai is the CEO of Alai Paper Recycling and Circular Economy in Tokyo. With over a decade experience, he bridged industry, government, and academic in advancing zero waste practice. He also served as a policy advisor and international speakers on recycling innovation. So, Mr. Alai, recycling and circular economy practice are key component to sustainable economy. As Mr. Alai is long-time practitioner in waste management, could you share your insight on how recycling and circular economy can be integrated into supply chain?
Oh, thank you. My name is Riichi Alai from Japan. I'm very happy to be here. I would like to share some good examples from Japan for your business ideas. So, 一つ目はジクサスというスタートアップの事例です。使用済みの石膏ボードをリサイクルして、同じ価格で、新しい石膏ボードを作る会社です。彼らは同じように、地元の建設会社とか廃棄物処理会社とが出資した地域のリサイクル工場を建設して、循環型サプライチェーンを構築しています。2つ目はプラスチックのリサイクラーです。彼らは、プラスチックの品質を向上させて、大企業のマツダとかホンダといった自動車メーカーの要求に応える高品質のリサイクルプラスチックを提供しています。私の意見ではですね、これ循環型の経済を導入するにはまず自社のサプライチェーンで何が廃棄されているのかを把握して、それを再生できる技術を持つリサイクラーと提携することで、新たな付加価値を作りながら廃棄物の削減をすることができると思います。
The first example is about small local companies leading the circular economy. A startup called Jixas developed a unique method to recycle gypsum board from construction waste. Usually, this material ends up in landfills. Jixas can now turn into new gypsum board with the same price and quality as original one. They also build small recycling plants in each region, funded and by local construction or waste companies. This model creates a truly local circular supply chain where SMEs are now just participating, but leading the solution. The second example is about small recyclers responding to changes in big companies. a plastic recycling company called Shinye Kase improved the quality of recycled plastic, which was once considered too low for high-end use. Because major car makers like Mazda and Honda needed to meet new EU regulations on recycled materials. These big companies started asking suppliers to provide high-quality recycled components. The recycler responded, and now their materials are used in car exteriors. This shows how regulatory shifts in global markets can create new business chances for SMEs in Japan. So in Japan, we see two patterns. One, where SME takes the lead to build circular ecosystem in their communities. And the another one is where SMEs supporting big companies to go circular. In my opinion, to adapt circular economy practices, SMEs should look at what is being wasted in their own supply chains. By partnering with recyclers who have the technologies to reuse those materials, they can create added value through circularity and help reduce waste. I hope this example gives you useful ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now I'd like to address Ms. Selina Chen. Selina leads sustainability and sustainable finance as OCBC Bank Hong Kong, driving landmark ESG transition across Asia. She has pioneered deals, including the world's first sustainable linked bond for a real estate developer and Hong Kong's first green and transitional bond. With global banking experience, she is a strong advocate for green financial for good. Given OCBC engagement with thousands of SMEs across many industries, you have valuable insight on how these businesses are evolving in response to ESG practices. Could you share any key trends you've observed in the greening of the manufacturing sector and how companies are approaching these transactions?
Great, thank you so much, Jude. And first of all, thank you so much to FHKI and Dr. Chong for the invitation. So to give some context, OCBC is the oldest Singaporean bank and with a very strong focus in Asia. With a purpose-driven mission, we do believe that as a bank, we should be making a positive difference in society. So that's why we are also one of the earlier banks to start sustainable finance business. What does that mean? That means we actively channel our money, our lending and our investment to sustainable companies and sustainable projects. And that includes manufacturing sector as well. So we are also very pleased to say, in Hong Kong, I lead sustainable finance, but it's a regional and global business. And we have also been named as best bank for sustainable finance in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Malaysia. So today we are just hoping to share some experience to help the SMEs as well and to advise on how we can pursue more in sustainability. So Jude, you asked me about the trends. I think there are two key observations we see why SMEs are focusing more and more on sustainability. Actually, the first one is about capturing business opportunity, and secondly is about cost optimization. So on the business opportunity one, we see that some companies are starting to realize in order for them to compete in such an uncertain world, they want to go for the higher end, higher quality productions so that they're not just competing on price, they're actually differentiating their products. And sustainability or other things such as say digitalization, all these value adding service actually help a company differentiate themselves. So this is one area. And in terms of other business opportunities, we also see companies saying if they realize they want to go for the higher, the bigger contracts, the international buyers, such as the likes of, say, Disney, Amazon, if they're producing products for them or if they're even doing the value chain, like even packaging, they realize those companies have standards to meet in sustainability. So if they want to even be considered for those contracts, they have to install certain sustainability principles or even say green certification in order to be considered for those bid and contract. And then in terms of cost optimization, it's also a very key reason why companies do that because we see raw materials becoming more expensive, wage more expensive. How can companies control cost? Sustainability helps because, let's say in Hong Kong, our electricity price has increased constantly. between 2022 and 2023, it increased by 20% at least. So if any SMEs is not reducing their electricity by 20%, actually they're already paying more. So sustainable practices, optimizing the even say lighting, air conditioning, your machinery already help save cost. So just to illustrate with a very quick example, we also recently heard from one of our clients. It's a Hong Kong-based printing company called Golden Cup. It's a family-run business that have been around for a number of years, but a lot of people are also asking them, well, printing business, it can be seen as quite, well, it uses a lot of water, it uses chemical, it can be quite polluting, and maybe a bit of a sunset industry. So what to do, how can they transition the business in the manufacturing sector? And then they realized one of the strategies is to go for the higher end contracts, the bigger sum contracts with the international buyers, such as the Longman and the Pearson textbook printing companies. But then in order to get those business with international buyers, they need to up their game as well. So they realized they need to upgrade some of their plants, their machinery, for example, installing solar panels for clean energy. And then they also realized as a company, they have to have certain practices to improve their sustainability at a company level. So this company is actually one of the very rare examples of an SMEs who have both a green loan and a sustainability-linked loan from OCBC. So we support them on both those two fronts, the solar panel green projects, and also as a sustainable company, how can they continuously improve? So this is helping them compete in such an uncertain world these days and to become growing their business when their peers is actually dropping slightly.
Okay, thank you, Selena. Michael Kappa is a co-founder and CEO of Impala Service and Paramount Labs, leading innovation in AI-powered content solution. He served as a board member and co-chair of both the AI and Sustainability Working Group at the German Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. Michael bridges digital transformation and ESG strategy to drive smarter, more sustainable supply chain. As a board member of the German Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, you have a unique perspective on challenges and opportunity for Hong Kong and EU businesses in achieving sustainable supply chain. What are some of the key initiatives or programs that German Chamber is undertaking to support members in this area? And what are some of the most important areas for future collaboration between Germany and Hong Kong businesses on supply chain sustainability?
Thank you so much, and thanks for the invitation and a great introduction. Very nice. Yeah, thank you, and nice to meet you all. I would like at the beginning of this question to answer and focus a bit more on the work we do in our sustainability working group. And I'm just back from Germany. We had a big conference, the Global German Chamber Conference. So we had I think 120 chambers out of 93 countries coming together in Berlin. And one of the big topics discussed was also ESG. This is one of the top priorities among all of them. And most of you might know Germans are particularly famous for regulation. Europe in general. And sometimes I think regulation is how to say, it's a bit like cholesterol. There's good and there's bad. It's good that things are regulated because it makes it easier to plan business, to know the rules of the game, to export goods. And there's also the sector I'm mostly in is the sourcing and the trading industry. So we're working for 20 years. I'm now in Hong Kong, working with big retailers. And this is the big focus also in the German Chamber, the retail business, trading business, and manufacturing in Asia and mainland China. So, but regulation can be also bad, and it can be very, very complicated and make it very difficult for businesses to export or to understand, how can I enter into the market? I think just recently it's getting more and more apparent. We're getting more inquiries from manufacturers in mainland China to say, I don't think I want to export so much into the US for now. I want to enter the European market, but I have really no understanding about the regulations. It's so complicated. Even the EU is not really unified on certain rules, like France and Germany and UK. There are many, many different things, right? So what we have done in the sustainability working group last year, that was the first quite successful goal. We cooperated also with the Chinese Chamber of Commerce and the CMA, and worked out a brochure. First, like we published this is publicly available, I can share the link, which is bridging basically the suppliers, the manufacturers in Asia and in China predominantly, and understanding and telling them like what kind of standards are actually coming from Europe and how to prepare. What is the impact on your business? So we wanted to first, like we selected 10, so CBAM is like one of them, EUDR, like all these kind of names you saw, and first explain them a little bit. What is that actually? What's the impact on your business? And what do you need to do in order to be ready for that? But it's also to explain them because nobody understands the EU regulations very well. The EU even themselves, platforms, websites where you submit all this data were not really ready. So that was quite successful, and the goal of this brochure was not only educational. It was also two messages we wanted to give to the manufacturers of the sourcing companies, members of the German Chamber. You need to comply. It's not a nice to have. It's not something you choose or you do and it's better for you. You have to do it. There are very tough penalties coming up. Now they're a bit delayed, but they're coming and they are serious about that. And if you don't comply, you're out of business, very simple. But we also had this positive spin. We don't want to be like only the bad guys. We also said there are a lot of use cases, and we did quite a few studies of companies showing very good cases of being sustainable is good for business. You can actually make more money. Because a lot said, like, oh, it costs a lot of money, it costs a lot of money. So to close my point is, what we're focusing on this year, we want to build on that and go one step further. And currently our group is working on a concept for a pre-assessment of manufacturers in Asia, predominantly in China, to help them like to standardize a kind of audit. You know, I think a lot of you know you have to fill out a lot of papers, a lot of reports. A client comes, they say, fill this out again, do this test again. And then another testing lab comes, I need to certify you again, I need to do another audit. And it's actually all the same. So what we kind of want to simplify that, you know, we want to find a kind of a common way of assess a manufacturer in terms of ESG readiness. We are working on a kind of checklist for that. And also we will, very interestingly, include financial perspectives. So we're also talking to financial institutions and banks because you have already very great checklists to assess these manufacturers. So we want to include these factors into this assessment as well. The result of that is very simple. You have standardized ways of assess suppliers, which is easier for the retail companies. You save money, you save time. The banks have a much better understanding where to invest or what it's worth it. So we add a component from the industry. And the manufacturers like you can get access to financial help faster and easier.
Thank you, Michael. Mr. Ken Lam is Managing Director on INRES Hong Kong, is China's largest recycling of discard fishing net, and G-Locks Limited, a global packaging firm. He leads INRES, Innovation Low Carbon Recycling of marine fishing net into high-quality nylon fiber for textile. His work supports ocean conservation, sustainable development, and coastal communities. So Ken, what process and innovation does INRES use to convert discard fishing net into high-quality nylon fiber and pellets? And how do they maintain consistent quality in their recycling products? Furthermore, what are the environmental and socio-economical aspects of fishermen dumping nets into the ocean?
Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here today to share a topic that is related to every one of us. Because we are human and we are on top of the food supply chain. So today we're talking about the largest pollution source in the ocean, which is the discard fishing net. Because this is a very niche industry, I believe most of us, we don't get much chance to touch or even to touch or to see the fish net, because they're in most of the time they're in the fishing boats or in the fishing villages or in the factories. So today I prepare some more data and some technical numbers to share with all of you. Since Drew just raised a quite long question, which contains 3 different questions, so I have prepared some numbers so for our audience today to get to know more about this industry. So regarding the first part of the questions, we have actually developed a full chain closed loop recycling system in China. It starts with a collection from the collection stage. As some of you may not know that actually only around 10% of the total fish net are being recycled nowadays. So since the day we found this company in Jiangsu province back to 2016, we have already set up over 11 collection stations along the coastal line of China. And we're also starting a new factory in July of this year in South Vietnam. Yeah, actually what we are doing slightly different than the other recycling, fish net recycling company is that because I stay over 2 years in Vietnam and I visit over, I would say 50 fishing villages in different part of Vietnam and also in my grandmother's hometown, Indonesia. I found that most recycling companies, actually they only interest in the high value part of the fish net, which is the nylon part. But if we talk when we go to see those fishermen, they said actually nobody cares about the crab cages, which contains much bigger part than the fish nets, and their value is very, very low. So we decided to not just collecting the nylon part, we also would like to collect the crab cages. So we are not just nylon collector, but also we are a fish net and fishing gear collector. So unfortunately, fishermen, they don't have enough incentive or motivation to give us the fish net, unfortunately, because the recycling value is very low, and it takes a lot of time, and even sometimes during the bad weather, it could be very dangerous for them to try to recycle the fish nets. So in this case, we are the first company in China to offer on average 15% higher than the industrial purchasing price to encourage over 3,000 fishermen to give us their unwanted fish net instead of throwing them into the ocean. So moving on to the recycling stage, INRES takes a unique approach by using physical recycling technology. That means we use mechanical weight of recycling to avoid high energy consumption and secondary pollution associated with chemical treatment. So the discarded fish net are first cleaned, shielded, then through a hot melting process in our zero carbon factory. Then they were transformed into nylon chips or called PA6. Compared to the virgin nylon production, after we recycle the fish nets, if you compare 1 ton of virgin plastic nylon versus our INRES recycled nylon, you can find out we actually can help to reduce CO2 emission by 91%, and energy saving by 90%, and water usage by 95%. According to a life cycle assessment we conducted with H&M back in 2022. So during the production stage, these nylon chips are melted to form short fibers, and these fibers are then bent with other materials like cotton and polyester to create yarns with the recycled nylon, making up as much as 90% of the blend. Finally, in the application stage, this is an area many of the audience may know more, which is what fish nets can finally turn into. So after all, we turn these fibers into yarn, and we turn these yarns into some higher value added products, such as clothes, shoes, handbags, luggage, and household products. And our end customers are already including LVMH Group, the bestseller, IKEA, and also BMW from Germany. So in terms of technological innovation, we also developed the world's first fish net traceability mini program to ensure the transparency and traceability of our products. So we're very happy that in 2021, our factory in China are the first one in the industry to certify by GRS, Global Recycle System Standard, and OBP, Ocean Brown Plastic, in France. Furthermore, IMRES also use a technology, biodegradable technology, because we all know that no matter how hard we try, but still for those fish nets, we finally sink to the ocean. We hope there's another backup plan, which is to make the fish net become biodegradable. So we use this. We are the first company to bring this cycle technology into the fish net industry to make them finally become degradable. So comes to the last part of Drew's question. I think about what social and economic impact for those fishermen to dump their fish net into the ocean. I think I would like to give some numbers, so for our audience have some ideas about what it impacts our life. Okay, so I think the first thing we can imagine is that it causes very serious damage to the marine ecosystem. For example, every year over 600,000 tons of nets are being abandoned in the ocean, and also this has caused over 140,000 deaths of marine animals. And also, these nylon nets are contributed to microplastic pollution as they take over 600 years to degrade under the bottom of the sea. So, and it also releases microplastic into the food chain, because most of us eat fish, right? So this is also a long-term threat to both marine life and also our own human life. In Africa, for example, the dumping of huge amount of fishing gears every year lead to a decline of fish population. As a result, it has caused fish resources to collapse and threaten the income of over 7 million people who depending on fishing. The high cost of waste fish net, recycling, and low recycling value mean that fishermen, they do not have motivation to recycle. And this has caused more fishermen to choose to abandon their used fishing nets in the ocean. So unfortunately, this has even led to a large-scale migration in some areas, like in the West Africa, where people are forced to move to Europe due to the decline of the fishing industry. So because of all of these environmental and social impact, we're here today to call for more parties and more partners from the industries to work together with us to clean up the ocean. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken, for a very comprehensive view of this issue. Ms. Samantha Pong has been an executive director of Siu Hing Steel Limited since 2003, a leading manufacturer and retailer of reinforced bar in Hong Kong. She brings over 2 decades of leadership in corporate operation and sustainability. She has also held various advisory roles related to climate change and sustainable development. So, Samantha, steel production is resource intensive. What's the specific strategy is Siu Hing Steel employ to reduce its environmental impact, such as exploring low-carbon steel alternative, improving energy efficiency, or minimizing waste generation in this operation?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jude, and thank you to FHKI for the invitation. Before I launch into our wonderful green initiatives, I feel like I must defend steel. It is true that steel production accounts for more than 7% of the global greenhouse gas emission and over 11% of the CO2 emission. However, steel is also the most recycled and most recyclable material in the world. This circular economy of steel, so unlike fishing nets, 10% recycling rate, every year about 85% of steel scrap in the world gets recycled. And the process is done in the electric arc furnace, which is one of the steel making route. And the EAF, electric arc furnace, uses steel scrap as the raw material. The other manufacturing process, as you might know, is the blast furnace, which uses iron ore. Right now, EAF accounts for around 25% of steel production in the world, and the rest is all blast furnace. There is no product differentiation between steel produced in an EAF and in a blast furnace. On the surface, EAF is more eco-friendly because it uses scrap steel and also it uses less energy. In contrast, blast furnace, because it relies on iron ore and cooking coal, the carbon emission is much higher. However, with more R&D, in the future, hydrogen-based reduction will play a very vital role in blast furnace steel production. However, also with combining the hydrogen with renewable energy, net zero steel is achievable at a very high price, at least for now. As I understand, blue hydrogen, green hydrogen will not be economically viable. The production will not be economically viable until around 2050, so we still have a few more years to go. So as a rolling mill and an importer of reinforcing bars, we have adopted a few strategies to reduce the environmental footprint on an industry-wide level. So the first one is, as Jude mentioned, we have been exploring lower carbon, and that is lower embodied carbon. So we're dealing with scope 3 emission here. The lower carbon steel alternatives by working with mills that can provide EPD. So we're still at that level right now. So we're more aware of the level of embodied carbon in the product. We consciously work more with mills that supply lower embodied carbon products wherever possible. It is actually possible to cut the carbon emission, just to give you some numbers, by over 50% by choosing EAF over blast furnace. Unfortunately, this is entirely price-driven, and the cost of EAF rebars is about 25% higher than the blast furnace option. So another, a more economical initiative we have taken is off-site fabrication. So traditionally, cutting, bending, and fixing of rebars are done on-site. By doing the cutting and bending procedures in our factory, we not only make it safer and more efficient, but we also reduce the wastage of rebars overall. So the usual wastage is around 7 to 8% on-site. Off-site, we managed to reduce the wastage to under 4%, which is huge given the annual consumption of reinforcing bars in Hong Kong is around 1.2 to 1.5 million tons. Also, as a responsible stakeholder in the supply chain, we endeavor to lower our own carbon footprint at our mill. So for example, we have our own water treatment plant, so no water is discharged. We also have a recuperator at the reheating furnace to recover heat from exhaust gas. And finally, we have installed our own solar panels on the rooftop, and it is one of the largest in Hong Kong at 1 megawatt. So that's a win-win situation. So that's what I want to share for now.
Okay, thank you, Samantha. Now I would like to address the panel. Despite growing awareness, many companies still face significant hurdle in adopting sustainable supply chain practice. So what are the main limitations that companies encounter, and how can these be addressed to support wider adoption of ESG? So welcome anyone like to respond? Yeah, Michael?
So you mean like what are the hurdles like to overcome?
Correct.
Like I think I touched on this already. Is regulation is a big hurdle. Data collection, data filling out, basically a lot of bureaucracy and administrative work. I mean, in our field, like for example, we focus on technical documentation. For example, let's say like one hurdle in this sustainable practices is like you cannot get documentation done fast enough. It's very complex and so on, right? But there's an angle I heard here today quite a lot about how we can save energy, how can we make things more efficient and stuff like that. And I would like to look from a different angle, okay? So how many of you like to read instruction manuals? I guess so. Nobody, right? But a lot of you, I guess, when you're at home, you have a question. Like, recently I wanted to unfreeze my salmon, and I look at the microwave, and I have no mode for unfreezing salmon. I can unfreeze chicken, but I don't know how to do that. I also don't know where's the instruction manual. So I want to fix that problem, right? So funny is, like, we are in this business. We're actually creating instruction manuals, also with our AI company, but nobody's reading that stuff. So now things with AI are changing, and I can just ask my smartphone. So what did I do? I took a photo of the microwave and said, how can I unfreeze salmon? And this AI, I mean, it's not perfect. It's not an exact answer, but it gave me some advice, right? So the system we are building, for example, is giving you a very precise answer. So we collect huge amount of technical content, and then you can ask this question and solve your problem, okay? So what does it have to do with sustainability? We work with retailers. Like, if you look at Amazon, for example, do you know how high is the product return rate of Amazon? It's an average about 22% of products are returned. In some categories, even 30 to 40% of products are returned because people don't like it. How often did you buy something, I don't like it, I just return, right? How often did you tell where you bought why you returned it? It's a big black box. So when we talk to customers, we just wanted to solve this microwave unfreeze salmon issue, right? But another thing came up very interestingly. These companies, they burn most of these returned products because it's cheaper than to recycle them or to resell them. They're burning them. Funny is, like, they call it energy recovery. So when we talk to our clients, just to focus on the user part, right? We discovered about 60–70% of these product returns. Nobody knows why you, the customers, actually return these products. And with this example I just gave you with a smartphone, you ask a question, right? You don't want to fill out a report or stuff like that. But if you ask a question, we can actually, with our solution, we record these questions. So we give these clients reports and say, you sold 10,000 of these microwaves. 30% of customers ask this question. Where's the on-off button? How to unfreeze salmon? You get a lot of intelligence. You can feed back to the producers, basically, to you, to produce less, to reduce the product returns. This is, I think, a very, very powerful angle we should also not forget, not just to produce faster and more efficient, and how can we recycle more, but how can we actually stop and reduce this overconsumption? Buy something and throw away because I don't like it. So just a very interesting example where we didn't really think about that, but we have a huge leverage here with data to address this issue from a sustainability side.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone else want to respond? Perhaps, yeah, Samantha?
For our industry, one of the major hurdles is oversupply. So when we already have an oversupply of steel in the world, and we're talking about the most efficient, lowest cost producers, why would investors want to put more money in green steel production that is more expensive? Not everyone understands what it is. Not everyone understands why we need it. Because Scope 3 emission, while it is already understood in some parts of the world, for example, in Hong Kong, we are just starting to look at Scope 3 emission in our industry. So that's number one. And then another one is the lack of a unified industry standard for us. So it's very difficult for developers to work it into the tender document because, you know, developer one is saying they want EAF steel. Another one is talking about the carbon emission level. So to start, I think all stakeholders must be on the same page, and we have been working with CDD, with CIC, with HKGBC on. So we're coming up with a newer version, more updated version of the Green Product Certification Scheme. So hopefully, in the near future, all the stakeholders, including developers, including contractors, suppliers, we're all on the same page. So that will be a good start for us.
So, Mr. Alai.
Thank you. 大きなハードルの一つはコストだと思います。解決策の一つは 公的機関によるガバメントによる補助金です。日本では政策でサーキュラーエコノミー進めてますけれども、実際主役となるのは自治体、ムニシパリティです。そこから良い事例を作っていくことが重要ですけれども、そこで鍵となるのが人材の育成です。この分野に精通して熱意を持つ人材がいないと、ただ単にリサイクルをするだけで終わってしまいます。私はサステナビリティ分野の人材育成が重要だと考えています。
When I talk to customers, I receive the feedback. I think one of the biggest hurdle is cost. Our solution is subsidies from public institutes. In Japan, circular economy is being promoted through policies, and the local government play a pivotal role on this. We have 47 local governments in Japan, and about 4 are actively providing funds. It is important to create good example from here, and the key here is human resources. We need people who are knowledgeable and enthusiastic about this wide-ranging field. Otherwise, it ends up with just recycling. So I think it is important to develop human resources in the field of sustainability.
Thank you. So, okay, let's move on. There's a limited role SME can play, and the drive is usually by government or by with green purchasing policy. So what role can SME play in promoting sustainable material sourcing and waste reduction? Well, perhaps Ken, would you like to respond?
Sorry, I would like to add a few points on top of the other guest's point of view. I think just like I totally agree with Michael and Samantha that actually recycling as an SME in China and Vietnam, actually we face lots of difficulties, especially in the recycling. Because especially when we try to bring these products, finished products, to the customer, and we find that most of them they're complaining about the price. Again, it's about the cost issue. So as SME, I think we really need the support from government to provide some incentive to those early adopters. I think this is the only way to drive the whole industry to move on. So I think as a SME, our role, I will say that we would like to call for more partners, and we need more attentions, no matter it's from media, from the industry, from NGOs, or from the government. We really need more attentions, so we can be stronger. Yeah, that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
And on this point, I think for the funding part, as a financier, we are also very acutely aware of that. And in fact, for the government part, we've also been trying to lobby them because currently there are sustainable financing funding or subsidy, but it's mostly targeted at the larger corporates. So as in the loan size, for example, has to be above 100 million Hong Kong dollar, which is too big, right, for SMEs. So we have also in the industry, from the financial industry perspective, been lobbying to see if the government is willing to lower that threshold so that SMEs can also benefit from this kind of subsidy. It's a work in progress. We try our best to lobby, but we are acutely aware, and then perhaps later on we can also share a little bit from a bank's perspective how we have been helping our SMEs as well.
Sure. Since we have a panel of speakers from different geographical region, so I thought I would ask about cross-section collaboration. So many SME are part of a global supply chain. How can international and cross-sector collaboration and knowledge sharing be fostered to improve supply chain sustainability across border? For example, are these financial innovation and advisory services that are helping SME to meet sustainability goal? I mean, perhaps Selena, you.
Yeah, maybe I can start first. So on the financial innovation or support, I think actually, first of all, sometimes SMEs are saying to us that they need to know how they're doing currently, as in the baseline of how they are doing in terms of ESG. So many of them don't even realize how much energy they're using or the electricity or the kind of, how does that even convert to, say, carbon emissions? So in fact, on on the internet, there are softwares to do that. There are calculators, even by our electricity company. As a bank, we also offer a lot of free tools to help SMEs to calculate their ESG impact or the footprint. So whether it's any of the usage, let's say the energy, electricity, water, that sort of thing, or even some companies, they have company vehicles, then how do we include those into their emissions or their footprint as well. And then we also have free tools that help companies project a little bit forward based on, let's say, the office or the factory, the technology they use or the infrastructure they use. Going forward, what's the kind of energy level we are seeing or the electricity consumption we are seeing? And then with the baseline, they see where they are, then they can consider, in the next few years, what they can do to even reduce it. But without knowing where they are, it's very hard to start. So that's usually the first point, and there are industry tools, and as a bank, OCBC, we also have free tools for SMEs. And then secondly, if and when the companies do realize they need some funding or support to pursue sustainability or to become more efficient, then in OCBC, we also have, for example, specially designed programs for SMEs. So they, for example, I mentioned just now for, say, green loans, if companies have a green project, let's say solar panel or recycling paper, those are actually, say, green projects, then we have something called the SME Sustainable Finance Framework. Is one of the unique ones in the industry because we basically put up a very clear definition of what does green mean. So if your company or the project falls under a certain category or they have certain certification, then we can very quickly classify that as a green activity. And then we can also potentially grant them green loan. So the information is very transparent, I would say, helping companies see it very clearly and to streamline the whole process as well. It reduces the back and forth. It also potentially reduces some of the costs in accessing financing for the SMEs. And then on the other hand, if it's not green projects, because not every company is doing green projects, then we also help companies who are on a longer trajectory, let's say in 3 to 5 years' time, improving on the sustainability performance. Let's say they have some targets they're willing to set annually to reduce their water usage, say for the printing company that we talked about, or say for the electricity consumption they're reducing every year. In those cases, we grant something called the sustainability-linked loan, which means if the company meet those KPIs, then our bank actually incentivizes them. We give them discount in the loan. So hopefully by doing that, we also, it's a win-win, right? We come to the middle, you do a bit more, and then we also give you a discount. And then, so this is called sustainability-linked loan. It's getting quite common in the SME space. In fact, in large corporate, this is already very common. But we want to bring this solution to the mid-size and the SMEs as well. And we provide the advisory because usually the large companies, you may think, oh, they have the in-house resources, they know how to do these sustainability-linked things. Here, as a bank, we provide that service and advisory to help SMEs on board sustainability-linked financing. And last but not least, the kind of innovation we see as well, companies are no longer just doing green. Some manufacturing companies are moving towards social as well because ESG, the S stands for social, right? So we also see some companies starting to think about the social impact, social responsibility. For example, we have companies in affordable housing, the supply chain contractors of helping the government build affordable housing. And then we also have another program that helps women entrepreneurs. So for the companies that are in an earlier stage, 10-year or below, then we want to help our entrepreneurs to thrive as well. So we provide the tools, support, and potentially financing to help the companies go on board. Those are called social loan. So as a bank, we actually offer many tailor-made, customized solutions for SMEs. But sometimes I agree with the panelists, it's about sharing, so that more people know about it, and they can then inspire them to think about what they can do in their own company.
Great. Michael, this one is for you. AI is getting more and more popular with increasing number of agents. So how can AI and digital transformation be leveraged to improve supply chain sustainability, particularly for SME? Can you share specific example of applications that have been proven effective in enhancing transparency, traceability, or resource efficiency?
Thank you. Proven is a big word, yeah. AI is impacting all of us in all aspects. Everybody who's sitting here, myself, and quite deep into this topic. At the German Chamber, we have about like 500 corporate members, and we built the AI working group. It's like kind of a microcosm of this 500 members. So we carefully selected the members of this group. It's about 20 from different industries, from commercial perspective, from technical perspective, and they all come now together to work out a very unique, I didn't see this anywhere in Hong Kong, blueprint for any kind of business like you, like us. Banks, I think, are a bit more advanced, but to help you with this digital transformation, AI transformation. And I think this is a very huge lever to unlock efficiencies, reduce waste of energy, work efficient, reduce, for example, problems and defects in production. So AI is not just DeepSeek or ChatGPT or what you know. Like, AI is a quite deep field. But what we want to achieve here is to give companies a blueprint where you can get started. We talk with a lot of leadership. We talk a lot with like people in let's say, decision-making positions, and they don't really know what to do. I just talked recently with a managing director of a very big company, and he proudly told me that he wrote his first email with Copilot. And I was shocked. I'm like, if that's the level of what you know about AI, then it's really late. So what we want to see is, like, we want to analyze, like, give you like 7 pillars, basically. Any company can analyze. How's your data set up right now? Data is often a very big stopping, like a hurdle for anything afterwards. If you don't optimize your data, you centralize it, you bring it into like one brain. This is what mostly software companies actually do. But now we all need to think like software companies. Number 2 is the processes you have in the company. In the production, in your administration, anywhere. If you ask your people why you do what you do, try that. You will get very surprising answers. A lot of them don't know why. So you need to optimize and automate, right? Then there are things like governance, strategy, products and services. So if you look at a bit like products and services, I think this is an interesting point. I'm also leading a manufacturing committee in Hong Kong. It's a different association, only focused on AI. And we're looking only at AI solutions to help them to work efficient and sustainable. So I give you a few examples. You asked for that. Is Vision AI. So a lot of manufacturers have a defect rate, sometimes 5% or higher. So they want to use Vision AI systems to detect these defects earlier, or to reduce these defects by, for example, a lot of machines in the factories are breaking down, and then you cannot produce. These maintenance are very irregular. So it's like, oh, it's broken down. Okay, now we need to repair it. But how you can prevent the repair is very interesting for a lot of manufacturers, right? There's another example. Or I can give you an example in maybe not for manufacturing, but I know there's a big retailer in US. They have like 400 stores and warehouses. So they use AI, for example, to track the data and the weather, the humidity, when is the sun rising, when is the sun going down, summer, winter is different. And based on this data, they actually like turn on the air cons, turn off the air cons, and adjust all of these kind of things, and can save up to 40% of their energy. It's like something nobody really thinks about, right? But they are like, we need to find these little niches to unlock this potential, right?
Great, thanks, Michael. Mr. Alai, I know that in Japan, sustainability and circular economy starts very early on, and seems like the driver is not only legislative compliance. So what are the key drivers, such as consumer demand, brand reputation, or cost saving, that are motivating manufacturers to invest in sustainable supply chain? How can these drivers be leveraged to accelerate the transition?
Thank you. 将来的には人口増加によって資源が枯渇してしまうので選択肢はなくなるでしょう。日本は主要な資源のほとんどを輸入に頼っているので、これが将来的に輸入できなくなって物を作りたくても作れなくなる可能性があります。だからこそ一部の企業は 循環型のサプライチェーンを作っているんですけれども、トヨタがその例として挙げたいと思います。トヨタのフォークリフトを販売するとき、現在はバッテリーは含まない、バッテリーだけはリース契約となっていて、顧客はトヨタに返却しなければならない。こうやってトヨタはバッテリーをその自社に戻ってくる仕組みを作っています。
In the future, I believe we will have no choice because resources will run out. It depends on the natural resources in each region and country. Today, Japan relies on imports for most of its key resources, but in the future, this may not continue. As the global population grows, demand for resources will increase. There is a real risk that Japan will no longer be able to import materials as easily as before. Even if companies want to make products, they may not be able to. That's why some companies are starting to build a circular supply chain. Toyota is a good example. When they sell a new forklift, they do not sell the battery. Instead, the battery is leased, and the customer must return it to Toyota. This is how they keep the battery and its rare materials in their own loop.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would like to open to the floor for any questions for our panelists. Yes. Mr. Wong. Yep.
I guess you mentioned a lot about application of artificial intelligence for sustainability, but this is only the E part. I think the G part is very important as well. The application of AI, then you really have to think deeply in the governance part as well. The governance of AI is not the AI for governance. I think, can you comment on that? But once you have that, then you have the problem of cost again. It makes things more expensive, and it's not very favorable for SMEs.
Yeah, thank you for this question. Governance is, I think, one of the most important points in terms of AI, and nobody really wants to talk about. I mean, there are many aspects of, like, for example, how is your data stored? What are the standards globally defined? Like, you have the EU AI Act, for example. You have ISO regulations about AI. So we also in the German chamber now having some motions about like how to unify that, or how to make it, for example, applicable for Hong Kong. Like, they're very different location dependencies you have, right? So it's the dream would be, of course, you have a global approach to that, right? How to supervise that, how to govern it, but that's most likely not happening, right? So, in my view, there will be like a US, maybe a European version. I mean, Europe is like much more restrictive on AI and GDPR and protect of personal data. If you look at AI use, for example, in Asia or in China, it's like much more experimentative. Like the people like really just use it and want the benefits. So yeah, it's not a real super good answer, I guess. But a lot of people think about this right now.
Can I make a comment on yours?
Yes, please.
Well, yeah, if you were trying to attempt to make a kind of a global governance, I think it would be very difficult.
Yes.
Because different places, the development level is different, and also the directions are different. Let me give an example. Like in America, when they all started internet and data part of it, it's all about business, though they kept more free to open it up. But when they have that kind of internet business apply to the rest of the world, including Europe, and Europe has very protective to their citizens, and therefore they have GDPR. But then when you apply to Asia, for example, in mainland China, the problem is national security. So it's the foci are very different. So if you're trying to find a uniform way, it's very difficult.
And you know, I'm a humanist. I believe in humans, and we all should work together and at some point go together to Mars. But let's see.
Yes. Oops.
Thank you for all the panelists for sharing your effort in a very different area. My question is, while we are in Asia, in Hong Kong at the moment, but US is still a very large economy power. And whatever happened in the US, Trump has basically downplayed or dismantled ESG in many areas. How is it affect your courses or paces for your ESG effort? It's a question to all panelists, please.
Sure, this is an excellent question, and we discuss a lot in the banking industry as well, because we work with many companies, from the largest to the mid-sized to the SMEs. So it's a very real challenge, and the Trump administration or the geopolitical stance is certainly not helping with advocating ESG. But what we are seeing, at least in the financial industry perspective, is the marketing of it that is being dampened. As in, because in the US, the reason why they cannot really say they are part of a coalition to work on ESG is because there is a risk of litigation. Because in the US, they do not want companies to collude together to do things. So you cannot say that you are colluding with other industry players to do ESG. However, if you are just doing it on your own, there's nothing stopping you from that. There's no litigation risk for you to do ESG on your own. And from what we see, our companies are still asking for sustainability-related financing. They are still transitioning their business model to become more sustainable, more green, and hopefully in the long run, they can still be there. As in the company, there are regulations coming, right? If they don't now adjust, then how can they even survive in the long run? And also what we see is the national commitment, say for China is still there, for Singapore is still there. So for Asia, we feel generally the momentum may be a little bit dampened, but then those who are working on it and not just doing the marketing are still very much focusing on the impact of it.
Thank you. And Professor Christine Loh.
Yes, I wanted to supplement what Selina said. I think it's true that if you wanted SMEs to have some kind of tool to measure their carbon emissions, you can download from everywhere. But actually, that's not the tool you want to use, because it doesn't reflect the real situation of the energy they're using. We at HKUST, we were asked 2 years ago by SFC, the Securities and Futures Commission, to create something for Hong Kong and Hong Kong companies that do business in mainland China. So we've actually created a bespoke calculator and estimator, because what you also said, Selina, was companies want to compare themselves with their peers. So this calculator and estimator allows you to do that. Now, our problem is it's already there. HKUST has done it for free. Problem, we don't have a promoter. So because the tool was, well, we were asked by SFC, right, the financial regulator, to do it. We suggested to them, because we tested it also with, I don't know, 60 SMEs, right? Because the main thing is, do we know how to use it? Can you learn how to use it in 5 minutes, right? Some of the companies who understand that are sitting right here. Problem, we asked if the government, if SFC could go to Bernard Chen, right? You know, and say, look, why don't you guys see how to then promote this to the SMEs? And that seems to be a problem. This is a cross-government issue, not really an intellectual or a collaboration issue. So now we're doing the second stage of update for SFC, right? They're now asking us to upgrade it with new information, but no one is using it. So what I suggest is it's ideal for someone like FHKI and CMA and so on. I mean, if we could work together to kind of get this done and promote it to Hong Kong's SME, they could at least do Hong Kong emissions much more accurately, because it's based on real emissions, right, from the power companies, and also their production across the border. Our system is totally ready to go Southeast Asia. But unless people start using it, it won't get anywhere. So maybe the Federation can help.
Sure. Thanks, Professor Luke. Oh, yes. Ms. Clara Chan.
Thank you, Professor's comments. As the ESG chairman for FHKI, I think Jude and also our chairman would agree that we take the responsibility to promote more how SMEs towards their sustainability journey, and also we have a good support from the panel members and also from the financial industries as well. So this is on us.
Okay, we are coming to the end of the panel. Despite the fact that SME seems to have a lot of challenges. But today, we hear there are a lot of solutions. Selena talking about money, financing support, Michael talking about AI, Ken talk about upstream, downstream collaboration and technology, and Samantha talking about standards. And lastly, Mr. Alai talking about innovation and innovative business model. But all of them, from what I heard from speakers, is about legislation. So I'm very happy today we have got two members from the Legislation Council here, and I hope you can help to bring this message back to the LegCo. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for such an insightful sharing. Thank you. All our guests, please return to your seats off stage. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jude, for moderating such an insightful sharing. Thank you. 緊接住咧，我哋就會開始第二節嘅討論㗎啦。咁啊，全球各地對於 ESG 咧都有唔同嘅標準同埋做法。香港企業喺同呢一啲地方做生意嘅時候咧，都需要留意相關嘅規定嘅。咁第一節主題咧，啱啱就係關於歐盟 ESG 合規實踐香港企業破局之道啦。接住咧，我哋就有請咧就係以下嘅嘉賓嚟到台上準備，同埋咧影張合照嘅。好開心邀請到 Lalamove 企業事務總監李志鵬先生為我哋主持。嘉賓咧係包括有夏信控股企業有限公司執行董事陳思敏女士 ，Mr. Mohit Grover, Lead Partner for Climate and Sustainability Services in Hong Kong of Deloitte Hong Kong， 香港大學氣候及碳中和研究中心項目經理林曉東先生，香港科技大學環境研究所首席發展策略師陸公衛教授，以及係代麗斯集團可持續發展總監黃啟俊先生嘅。咁啊，先請大家咧以熱烈嘅掌聲，我哋歡迎晒台上咁多位嘉賓，請我哋台前咁多位來賓咧都盡快就座，馬上咧我哋就會開始我哋下一節嘅討論環節嘅。咁喺開始之前呢，先請各位咧一齊影張合照先嘅嚇。Let's take a photo first before the start of the panel discussion. Please face our official camera in the front. 好，請各位望一望台前中間鏡頭，預備3、2、1。Let's give our thumbs up if you like. Thank you so much. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Also, please face our camera at the back. 有請嘉賓咧，我哋 keep 住呢個禮望一望咧，最後排嘅大會攝影師。好，唔該晒咁多位，請台上各位嘉賓可以就座。Thank you so much. Please take your seats on stage. 我哋將以下嘅時間咧交俾阿 Bill 為我哋主持，有請。
Hello, good morning, everyone. 大家好，早上好，大家好。My name is Bill. I'm the Director of Corporate Affairs of Lalamove, as well as a member of the ESG Committee of the FHKI. So I'm very pleased to be here today to moderate together with this very distinguished panel. And I think it's a very challenging task for us because we need to build on from the very inspiring discussion at the first panel. And actually, a lot of the questions from the floor is going to be discussed today as well, because this session, we want to take a deeper dive into actually EU sustainability compliance. And we want to hear from the experience and also practical advices from the panel on strategies for the SMEs of Hong Kong and also in Asia. So without further ado, actually, I want to ask the first question to Mr. Richard Lin. Mr. Richard Lin is Managing Director of Groen Duncan Limited, a think tank and consultancy focused on carbon management and sustainability reporting. He currently leads a government-funded project with FHKI and Hong Kong U to develop carbon tools for Hong Kong invested manufacturers in the Asia Pacific. Formerly a Big Four partner and Vice Chair of the European Chamber's Carbon Markets Work Group, Mr. Lin also represented China at the UNDP Climate Finance Conference in 2022. So, Richard, I think many of the audience, they are very concerned about Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or in short, CBAM, which is part of the EU's Omnibus simplification package that wants to streamline and update sustainability regulations. So my first question is very direct. Why should we care? What's the impact of CBAM?
Thank you, Bill. For the background information, please allow me to use Cantonese to share the information because I want the audience to understand better the key messages that I want to deliver to you guys. So, 轉台轉翻廣東話先。咁咩係 CBAM 咧？咁 make sure 大家都理解，我先介紹下咩係 CBAM 先。Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism。咁喺 under 呢個機制就係某一啲行業嘅 product， 當你入口去歐洲嘅時候，歐盟嘅時候，你係需要交一個所謂叫碳關稅啦。咁個碳關稅係點樣計咧？就 base on 你個 product 嘅 carbon emission 計出嚟嘅 ，OK？ 咁所以係另外一個 tax 你可能要交啦。咁但係個問題係在於其實暫時係邊啲行業會入圍咧？咁可能大家聽得比較多嘅，對香港影響比較大嘅，其實係兩個行業啦。一個係 iron and steel， 另外一個係 aluminium， 係咪？咁聽呢兩個行業，大家可能覺得即係可能距離自己比較遠，但係我想同大家舉一個例子啊！我手上呢一個316精鋼製造嘅雙頭扣，呢個係咪 subject to CBAM 啊 ？Yes。咁在座嗰位女士，你哋會買香水啦，係咪先？香水樽個樽蓋係咪 subject to CBAM 啊 ？Yes, it is。咁所以大家可以想像，其實香港好多中小企其實都需要 subject to CBAM， 而好多中小企其實都唔知道呢件事情其實係發生緊。OK， 咁所以好希望通過呢個機會去同大家去講多啲關於咩係 CBAM。咁最近大家可能聽到嘅消息就係關於 CBAM 有個所謂嘅 simplification package 啦，就係話有其中一個好重要嘅 key message 就係90%嘅 importer 都可以豁免去做 CBAM 嘅申報。OK， 呢個係咪好消息咧？咁與此同時 ，Parliament 個 statement 入邊有另外一句説話嘅喎，嗰句説話就係雖然90%嘅 importer 係豁免，但係99%嘅 carbon emission 其實都係 subject to CBAM。呢兩句説話係咪 very 即係好矛盾係嘛？咁點解咧？我好少人講呢以下呢一段，但係我講俾大家聽點解咧？嗰90%嘅豁免係 EU 嘅 importer 嘅豁免。但係作為我哋在座嘅中小企嚟講，其實你點知你個 customer 係咪豁免啊？只要你有一個 customer 係唔係豁免嘅，係嗰10%，咁你成套 CBAM 做嘅所有嘢係一模一樣嘅。所以 unfortunately 在座都係嗰99%。所以其實呢樣嘢我都好佩服歐洲嘅各位同事。佢哋總係揾到一個好好嘅角度，去令到大家覺得啊，好似好舒服。但係其實 ，you know， 即係有時我成日會覺得點講啊？大是大非面前就一定分你我嘅嚇。OK， 好，講完呢樣嘢，我再講。咁如果你要係 subject to CBAM， 你要做啲乜嘢咧？第一，你要 set up carbon management 嘅 mechanism， 跟住你要按照 EU 嘅 standards。去 collect carbon related 嘅 data， 然之後按照 EU 嘅 methodology 同 data requirement 去做 reporting、quantification， 然之後你再要揾一個 EU 認可嘅 verifier 去做 verification， 攞張 cert， 你先至可以完成到你嘅 compliance requirement。OK， 咁
講完呢樣嘢就可以答翻阿標個問題啦。個 impact 係乜嘢？好多人關注嘅係個 carbon tax，OK，但係其實我自己覺得個 carbon tax 係個影響係有限嘅嚇。你交9蚊，我交10蚊，其實可能差1蚊啫。個影響其實係 manageable， 但係更加大嘅影響係乜嘢呢？尤其對中小企嚟講，你點樣按照 EU 嘅 standard 去做 carbon management？ 好多公司連 carbon management 都未開始做，但係 EU 嘅 standard 係全世界最高。個 standard 其實最終嘅目的係為咗啲咩？係要 make sure one ton must be one ton。呢間公司同嗰間公司講嘅嗰1噸碳排放係同1噸。咁你諗下個 data requirement 係有幾高？咁所以，但係與此同時，如果你做唔到，你點啊？你啲 EU 啲 customer 唔會同你買嘅，因為呢個係 compliance 嘅問題，唔係錢嘅問題。所以如果你唔去應對 CBAM， 咁就意味住喺2026年最遲2027年，你就會冇晒成個 EU 嘅市場。呢個先至係真正最大嘅影響。好 ，thank you。
Thank you, Richard. Is it alarming enough? My next question is still I want to size up the issue. I want to know about what's really happening. So my next question is to Professor Christine Locke. So Professor Christine Locke is a Chief Development Strategist at the Institute for the Environment at HKUST. She has a distinguished public service career, including roles as Undersecretary for the Environment and also member of the Hong Kong Legislative Council. A long-time leader in policy and civil society, she also founded the think tank Civic Exchange and helped to establish several non-profit organizations in Hong Kong related to the arts and environment. So actually there's been a question from before, just now, about Trump administration in the US. But on the other hand, we are now talking about EU, right? And carbon disclosure and pricing mechanisms are becoming central to global trade. So I want to know from the perspective of Professor Locke, is this trend an ongoing one, or are we seeing actually steps going back and forth? And will ESG continue to be at the center stage for global trade?
我都轉台啦嚇，或者試下 NICAM，right 嚇？我覺得即係 ESG 呢個 trend 咧，實在係乜嘢 trend 嚇 ？What kind of trend is it？ 呢一個 trend 咧係應對到呢個氣候變化啦，同埋嗰個綠色嗰個越嚟越緊要啊！咁嗱呢個問題咧就係你相唔相信呢樣嘢啦？即係如果你話你而家睇美國啊，即係有新總統，咁佢就可以噏一大扎嘢，好似以前嗰啲都唔緊要㗎啦，咩巴黎協定啊，咪走咯。嗱，但係即係美國個市場係好大，但係如果你睇翻其他嘅經濟，即係大陸都好大嚇。咁如果而家亞洲啦、歐洲啦，即係佢哋會追求啲乜嘢？同埋我哋亦都睇埋聯合國，因為你睇聯合國即係 COP 啦，我都知道在座有啲朋友都會去嘅。嗱，實在由今年開始，大家會再睇到一啲乜嘢 ？What are you going to see and witness this year？ 實在嗰個 trend 咧都係綠嘅。The trend will be not only blue, but not only green, but also blue。嗱，呢啲係嚟緊嘅會係乜嘢啦？第一就係你去 COP 啦，嗰啲你會睇到好多其他嘅國家，即係 apart from US 啦，係 you will see other countries 啦，佢哋會繼續講綠啊。佢哋會講咧就係點樣 deal with 呢啲咁樣嘅嘢。咁啊 of course 好多人咧都會話喂 CBAM 太難喎。嗱，即係歐洲，我覺得佢都唔會變。頭先 I really love your statement 係咪？親疏有別啊嘛嚇。咁即係同埋呢個 CBAM 啦，我覺得就亦都唔係咁簡單，淨係講環保係咪？背後咧亦都有佢真係親疏有別喺度嘅。咁好啦，喺呢啲咁樣嘅嘢嘅時候，我哋香港嘅 SMEs， 我哋嘅香港 SMEs 啦係要面對嘅。咁香港嘅 SMEs 啦，好多時大家嘅 production 喺邊度做啦？就係喺祖國同東南亞啊嘛。咁所以呢啲咧，實在都會帶起成個 ESG 啊綠啊。嗱，我點解頭先有講埋藍啦？亦都會有多啲趨勢，因為呢個係國際嘅趨勢。你哋今年會睇到咧。就係 logistics 船業要 go green 咁呢啲咧亦都有其他嘅聯合國之下嘅一啲 regulators 咁船業講船業先啦，我都唔好講到航空先啦，航運先啦嚇。船業啦，佢哋 by certain dates 咧都要減排。嗱呢一啲咧 it will filter into right， 即係會 spread out into 所有嘅嘢㗎啦。咁或者喺呢度我講多一句關於我哋香港可以做咩先啦。我覺得 CBAM 係好特別嘅嚇。頭先啦，阿 Richard 講得非常清楚啦。有啲咩我哋可以香港做？嗱，第一樣嘢咧，我覺得就係我哋點樣 better coordination。嗱，實在政府咧都有好多政策嘅，佢亦都有好多咩資助啊，嗰啲不分。頭先阿 Bernard 都有講，但係我哋好多時咧就唔係聯合得 coordinate 得太好，就令到咧有好多落差嘅地方。咁所以咧，我覺得香港我哋都有好多，即係所有你哋今日主辦機構啦，係唔係第一樣嘢就係點樣大家聯繫？因為你想 reach out to 你啲 members 啊嘛。咁咧，亦都係咪可以 reach out 埋咧？就政府唔同嘅部門，因為你淨係搞阿 Bernard 咧，佢就搞唔掂噶啦嚇。因為咧，你點會諗到咧 ？SFC 叫我哋做咗 estimator calculator 嚇，佢唔同。係嘛？即係 Bernard 喺度搞掂，令到可以 spread out 嘅。嗱呢樣嘢，但係我覺得可以好容易解決。嗱，另外一樣嘢大家可以做，香港大家都有啲 production 嚇。香港你哋嘅企業你都想減排，嗱有啲嘢係可以做嘅。特別你係喺九龍同新界，你可以而家就開始稅政府，因為咧你有25%嘅 energy 係 nuclear， 係 emission free 嘅。香港政府如果我哋要 make 香港嘅 business more competitive，right， commercial 同 industrial more competitive， 你第一樣嘢可以考慮做啦，就係咪可以 apportion 嗰個核電俾 industry and commerce， 因為咧 privately household 係冇用嘅，佢用唔到啊。但係我哋嘅工商界咧係可以用到，咁一陣間或者再講其他啲 ideas 啦。
係非常好，非常好。Thank you very much, Christine. I think you have already started a actually much wider discussion that will actually focus later on as well. 在座咁多位嘉賓，其實 feel free 你哋可以用唔同嘅 language， 因為今日大會非常犀利啊，係安排咗SI 嘅。咁但係I will now move on to the next speaker. Who is Mr. Mohit Grover. Mohit, you are the actually lead partner for climate and sustainability services in Deloitte, Hong Kong, bringing over 25 years of professional experience. He advises organizations across Asia Pacific on decarbonization strategies and climate resilience. Mohit supports businesses in embedding sustainability across their operations and value chains to accelerate the transition to a low-carbon future. So after hearing from Richard and Christine, I think the small and medium enterprises want to know what are actually the gaps in their implementation of CBAM, especially concerning indirect emissions. That's also known as Scope 3 emissions.
Thanks, Bill, and very pleased to be here. Great to get your insights on the overall picture, and especially the technical details of CBAM. So maybe I can abstract this a little bit. If you have business with with EU, you would be subject to multiple regulations. We heard about, there's so many regulations in EU. CBAM being one of them. And specifically on carbon and a little bit of supply chain ethics, I think the first thing that SMEs need to understand is, one way or another, you will be subjected to carbon or supply chain ethics regulations if you are doing business with the EU. Yeah? So there's a broader framework of CSRD. There is a CBAM, which is more carbon specific. There are other sector specific regulations that are in place as well. So it's very, very likely that you will fall in the net of one of these regulations, which means this is something that is important for you to address. Second thing to understand is that the implementation period is very much between 2027, where it becomes a cost, where it becomes a tax, where it becomes like a tariff, where the reporting is mandatory, is from 2027 to 2030. For sure, a lot of these regulations would be implemented by 2030, right? So second thing to understand for SMEs is the time horizon. The third thing to understand here is that it is not just a compliance and a reporting matter, right? Essentially what is happening, what these regulations are driving is for carbon reduction, is for transition of high carbon emitting technologies and sectors. Like we talked about the areas, steel, aluminum, fertilizers, chemicals that are covered, but they are used in every product that we use, right? So eventually it is about a business model. It is about new technologies. In the previous panel, we heard about the steel manufacturing, right? What kind of transition that's going to happen. Obviously, that's a bit long-term, yeah? But we also heard about successful stories about recycling, right? Where recycling has become a viable business model, reducing the carbon. I remember the figure was 91%. So if you then look at this 3-year horizon, and yes, you need to do the reporting, there needs to be business strategies for you to see how you're going to reduce carbon, not just report carbon. Yeah. And the last part, which is more technical, which is the topic of, you can call it supply chain carbon, embedded carbon, or product life cycle. So it's not only your carbon. You know, there's a scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, right? Scope 3 predominantly is the upstream and downstream, which means in total, what is the carbon content of a product depends on these calculations across the supply chain. We did a study in Singapore a few years back, and it's a public study available on the internet, where we were looking at what is the carbon footprint of food imported in Singapore. And we looked at 13 different categories. One of the categories was chicken. And frozen chicken comes to Singapore from Brazil via ship, and it comes to Singapore from Malaysia via trucks, right? Guess which one has a lower embodied carbon? Yeah. Obviously, it's a trick question. The one coming from Brazil is lower. Yeah. And why? The reason is electricity in Brazil is hydropowered. Electricity in Malaysia is coal-powered, right? And the content, the carbon emission during the production phase of frozen chicken, all the electricity that's consumed is the highest carbon content in the total life cycle of frozen chicken, right? From the production to packaging to transportation. So the point I'm making here is, as SME, you have to recognize and understand your supply chain and look at where you can collaborate and innovate, yeah, to drive the overall carbon reduction of the eventual products and the tax that they'll be subjected to when they go to EU.
Thanks a lot, Mohit. I think we touch upon these gaps of SMEs that they face a lot of challenges in managing the supply chains and also carbon disclosure. So let's hear from the industry. Next to me is Christina, Ms. Christina Chan. She is the Executive Director of Xiaoshun Holdings Limited and Director of Daqing Enterprises Limited. She leads one of the world's top aluminum foil manufacturers, serving sectors such as food packaging, pharmaceuticals, and EV batteries. Christina was awarded the Young Industrialist Award of Hong Kong in 2019 and currently serves as Vice President of the Hong Kong Young Industrialist Council. So Christina, you are one of the key players in the aluminium industry, a sector directly impacted by the EU CBAM. So how has Daqing prepared for the upcoming compliance requirements, particularly in tracking the embedded carbon and reporting emissions? And what challenges have emerged, and how are you addressing them?
Thank you for your question. 或者我都轉台。咁其實首先係第一個我哋做嘅嘢咧，其實真係 understand the regulation。因為一開始其實 CBAM 出嚟嘅時候，真係我哋所有嘅人都唔知道係咩事，同埋呢個係 ongoing 不停 develop 緊嘅一個 regulation。我哋連我哋嘅客，即係佢哋真係 EU importer， 佢要去 file 嘅時候，佢哋都唔係好清楚。咁所以我哋做嘅時候，其實我哋一開始真係請咗個 external consultant， 真係 try to understand 個 regulation， 然之後就幫我哋。因為唔同 system 嘅話，其實佢哋嘅 scope 要 collect 嘅 data 其實都唔一樣，所以我哋首先就明白我哋要 collect 啲咩。咁我哋好好彩嘅咧，就係因為我哋其實一路都做好多唔同嘅 ISO 嘅體系，即係包括呢個14060 which is 呢個 greenhouse gas 嘅 reporting。所以其實我哋本身 information system 我哋都有好多 in place 係已經有好多呢啲 data。個最大個 challenge 咧，我哋見到其實係我哋上游嘅 data 點樣去 collect。我哋上游即係我哋做鋁箔啦，其實我哋上游原鋁其實我哋講真鋁箔嘅碳排放其實 majority 係 from 個上游個鋁定，所以要 report 得清楚嘅話，其實我哋上游嘅 data 係好緊要。咁我哋發現咧就其實海外嘅好多呢啲 ingot supplier 其實佢哋因為佢哋都有好多有佢哋自己低碳嘅品牌，所以佢哋其實都有佢哋嘅好清楚嘅數據。但係其實 majority 嘅 supply 係 come from China。中國入邊嘅 supplier 其實對呢啲 reporting 啊 data 其實就冇咁完善嘅。咁我哋嘅做法咧，其實就係話既然我有 consultant 已經幫我哋做咗 training，咁我哋就去幫佢哋，即係我哋嘅 supplier 嘅 staff 去做 training， 真係話同佢哋講話佢哋要 collect 啲咩 data， 然之後甚至係幫佢去計數，等我哋可以攞到啲 data。所以我諗我哋嘅 experience 就係覺得其實成個 reporting 嘅話，即係唔單止其實係一間公司嘅事，其實你真係要 work across 個 value chain 去做到呢件事咯。呢個就係我哋嘅 experience。
Thank you, Christina. And last but not least, let's hear from another industry expert. Mr. Keith Wong, you are the Group Head of Sustainability at Topform Group, with 15 years of experience linking supply chain management to sustainability. Keith has led the development of the company's sustainability strategy and ESG disclosures and drives initiatives that embed environmental and social responsibility into the business to create lasting value for stakeholders. So for Keith, balancing comfort, performance, and cost is already a challenge in intimate apparel manufacturing. So with rising ESG compliance expectation, how has your company, Topform Group, navigated these pressures, particularly in material choices and manufacturing processes?
Thank you for the question. I'll keep it in English, if I may. So the fashion industry has been a regulated industry for the past 10 years or so. And we see a huge impact on our brands, how they sell and market their products to consumers. So our approach was to first understand what were the impacts and what kind of solutions the customers are looking for in terms of from their supply chain. Back in 2021, we have updated our strategy and we have developed a roadmap to enhance our product offerings to our customers so that we can help them to support them to demonstrate product compliance in the regions that they're selling to. As supply chain partners, we have reached out to some of our suppliers. I think the key to address this really with our material suppliers. And then we have identified a handful of strategic suppliers who has the capability of offering certified sustainable material and also in full compliance of traceability required to import into those countries. So those were two really key things that will help in terms of meeting the compliance requirements. And we have helped one of our customer, US-based, to first launch their European line in Europe, and the product contains 95% sustainable material, and 100% of them were and packaging are recycled material. And that was for one of our apparel business. And we also have a vertical component business which manufactures foam cups. And about 3 years ago, we also took about almost a year to develop a certified bio-based foam. So compared to the previous, some of the foams that you see in the market, which is petroleum-based, is bio-based. And since we launched about 3 years ago, we were successfully able to ship out 10 million units until today. So I think those examples really help position us as a supplier, to go-to supplier to provide sustainable solutions for brands. I think, so I think those are some of the examples that we can give. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Actually, I'm very interested because both Christina and Keith talked about going a long way of managing the supply chain. So my next question I want also to hear more from them is because I think I'm asking on behalf of the audience. Do you think that actually technology and innovation is playing any role in your respective sector to help you do better with what you have talked about, choice of materials, supply chain management, or even, I mean, maintaining brand loyalty, etc., etc. What's the role of technology and innovation?
So I'll go first. So I think for us, innovative product design and our in-house technology play a very key role in driving revenues and also retain customer loyalty. So a few years ago, we have built a team and invested in 3D design technology. And the point is, it was part of our commercial strategy to enhance our customer experience and also retain customer loyalty. And part of the process was to understand a little bit more, we were planning to adopt that technology in product development. So in our trade, traditionally is customer will give you a sketch, a tech pack, we call it in a technical term, that they will have a drawing and they ask us to assemble, collect material and assemble materials to produce a sample for them. And that sample will send it to the customer and help marketing team and the commercial team to make decisions, whether they want to make amendments or whether they want to adopt the style. So this development process takes normally about 12, 15 weeks or even more for some customers. And by our estimation, if certain processes can adopt this 3D technology, we could have saved about 3 weeks of product development time, right? Without producing a physical sample. So you can think about the savings in terms of logistic time, the sample production time, the time for them to ship the garment back to us and give comments. And it took us almost 2 years to collaborate with one of our customers to adopt this process for some of the collections. And that collections represent about 5% of our revenue. So, and it's encouraging to see that the customer are looking to expand more collections using that methodology. And then we also share this case with some of our other customers, and they're very interested in, hey, let's work together and see how we can work more efficiently. And also, you can understand how much waste reduction can be made through this technology. So that would be some of the ideas and working process we were working with our customers. So it's a collective effort, really, to work more efficiently and also reduce waste in our operations.
Sure, thanks. How about Christina? Yeah.
我哋其實ESG 呢樣嘢咧，對我哋嚟講，其實即係早喺 CBAM 之前，我哋2015年之前其實已經有 customer 係同我哋有 request 話我哋要有 yearly 嘅一個 carbon emission reduction 嘅 target。咁去應對呢啲要求，其實我哋都係需要一啲 innovation 同埋 technology。咁我哋嗰陣時就已經開始去 build 一啲 internal 嘅 information system 去 track 我哋每一個 coil 嘅鋁箔 back to 佢個 source， 即係我哋用呢個鋁箔，我哋生產呢個鋁箔嘅時候，我哋用咩板定？我哋嗰個板定究竟用每一噸嘅鋁定喺邊度嚟？甚至嗰啲 recycle content， 我哋全部都要喺過程中 track 得好清楚。咁有呢啲 internal 嘅呢啲 tracking 嘅話，其實我哋唔單止可以計算即係 in general 我哋公司嘅碳排放係咩，但係其實我哋可以係針對每一個客呢個產品佢嘅碳排放係咩，我哋都會計到出嚟。咁呢個就 tracking 啦。In terms of 點樣去 improve 嘅話，其實我哋內部有好多呢啲 real time 嘅 energy real time 嘅 energy monitoring 嘅一啲系統，咁俾我哋嘅 operator、我哋 engineer 可以即係及時，當有任何嘅問題嘅時候，及時發生及時去揾出呢啲問題，同埋 from 個 design 嘅 process，design 我哋嘅 production process 嘅時候就已經諗話點樣去 design 一個低碳用少啲電嘅一個 process。另外嘅話，咁我哋亦都會有啲 investment 係我哋啲 equipment 啊，點樣去用一啲 energy efficient 嘅一個 component 去減低總體嘅碳排放咯。咁另外其實頭先我有講話，即係鋁箔嘅話，其實最大嘅碳排放嘅來源其實係上游嘅鋁定。咁呢個我哋都會不停同我哋嘅 supplier 一齊去睇話，佢哋有咩可以做，譬如佢哋可以 use more recycled content， 咁樣佢總體嘅碳排放可以減低啦。又或者而家其實有啲新嘅 technology， 譬如而家有 inert anode 啊，或者 carbon capture， 咁呢啲 technology 到而家其實都未話係非常之 scalable， 但係咁而家其實你見到係越嚟越多呢啲唔同嘅 industry player 其實係擺緊 research effort into 呢啲嘅新嘅 technology， 咁都相信之後都會有啲突破。咁我諗我哋嘅 approach 嘅話，其實係點解會可以即係 back to the question， 點解可以會幫到呢個 brand loyalty， 就係話我哋其實真係 prove 到俾 customer 話，我哋做呢樣嘢嘅同時，即係唔係淨係話我哋 report data 咁簡單，即係我哋係會真係 verify 到我哋嘅 data， 同埋我哋有個好 systematic 嘅 approach， 話我哋點樣一步一步去減我哋嘅碳排放。咁呢個嘅話，其實我覺得而家呢個 industry， 尤其對鋁呢個 industry 嚟講，其實 ESG 已經唔係一個 option， 係依個 requirement。同埋，假如你做得好咧，其實係一個 competitive advantage。而雖然話中間其實你肯定會有好多嘅投入，你有 cost 又有呢個 investment， 但係中間你都會見到一啲 efficiency 嘅 improvement。咁中間其實都有 cost saving， 所以我覺得呢個做得好嘅話係可以 differentiate 你個 product， 同時嘅話其實都係會有個 commercial 嘅 benefit 喺度。
唔該晒 Christina 同埋 Keith. Actually, that leads me directly to my next question because there are solutions in the market, there are technologies in the market, but it's not just about solutions and technologies. Sometimes it's also about the mindset, awareness, and also actions, right? So we know that there are a lot of challenges associated with CBAM, but true to the Hong Kong spirit, how are we going to turn the challenges into actually opportunities or even competitive advantages for companies or SMEs in Hong Kong and also in APAC region? So this question is for Mohit and also for Richard.
咁我答先啦。咁大家上堂啊，打醒精神啊！我舉個例子同大家講下呢回事先。一個 simplify 嘅 example， 有間公司佢有兩個 process A、process B。process A 出嚟嘅係 product A，OK，product A 佢會攞去賣啦，同時 product A 亦都會係 as precursor 用嚟生產 product B，OK， 好簡單呢個例子係咪？咁 under CBAM 嘅 requirement， 首先第一樣嘢就係 process A 同 process B 係要分別去計算佢嘅碳排放 ，OK， 呢個原則好重要。Number one， 跟住我哋可以預見到啲咩問題呢？ Issue number one 會用 energy 㗎嘛，咁對好多中小企嚟講，當然最理想嘅就係每部機我都有個10 meter 去計啦，係咪先？但係事實上唔會㗎嘛，我可能成間工廠我得1個或者2個 meter。咁第一個 issue 就係我啲 energy 點樣喺 A 同 B 之間去做 allocation。What are the technical grounds？ 我想同大家講 EU 關於個 technical grounds 嘅 requirement 係高，你要有一個非常之 reasonable、reliable 嘅 method 去做呢個 allocation。Issue number one。Issue number two，process B 我會有 scrap 㗎嘛，我啲 scrap 會攞翻去 process A 去再 recycle 再用。OK， 好啦，問題就喺呢度啦。因為有呢個操作，所以無論 process A 定係 process B， 其實你去計你嘅碳排放嘅時候，都會有問題，可能會有 permanent difference， 至少你一定會有 timing difference。OK， 咁點樣解決呢個問題啊？ Short answer is mass balance method。Very simple， right？ 但係實際上你需要做啲乜嘢？第一，你個 PO management 係咪足夠好啊？你個 production scheduling 係咪支持到啊？跟住你個 BOM unit consumption 係咪 stable？ 然之後你嘅 inventory management 係咪做得足夠好，可以做晒成個 reconciliation？OK， 咁聽完我講晒呢啲，咁其實 CBAM 呢個 project 最啱係邊個去 lead 呢？廠長，因為所有部門最識嗰個都要喺個 project team 入邊，你先至可以計到條數出嚟。OK， 呢個係我頭先講嘅係2個步驟咋嚇。如果有啲仲複雜啲嘅，咁其實會更加麻煩。OK， 第二個問題， 第三個問題其實頭先阿 Christina 都有講到啦 ，precursor 係最重要嘅 carbon emission， 但係你啲 supplier 唔會俾你噶嘛，佢會 push back， 就算佢有，佢都未必俾到你嚇，因為 confidentiality whatsoever 係咪？咁所以點樣 make sure 佢哋俾到條數你咧？同埋仲有一樣嘢喎，俾條數你唔係俾粒數你就搞掂噶咯喎。佢係 EU 係有一個 template， 有個 communication template， 你要佢填晒嗰張 form 入邊嘅每一個格仔，你先至可以用嗰條數。因為我頭先講過啦，你條數要去做 verification 噶嘛，你冇嗰張 form 喺手，你個 verifier 就會話 not reliable， 係嘛？咁所以點樣去解決呢啲問題其實非常之重要。咁講完呢一集啦，希望大家都 follow 到啊，回答翻阿標嘅問題。其實我哋要應對 CBAM， 首先從策略上嚟講，一定係 top down approach， 一定要廠長或者其他管理層去 lead， 跟住其實要每一個 department 之間佢哋溝通得到，好多時候其實都係要 department head 去負責做呢件事情。咁所以某程度上嚟講 ，CBAM 你就當佢係 one of the top priorities of your company 咁樣去做，咁先至會 OK。咁第二樣嘢我想講嘅就係個 quantification 係非常之重要，而 quantification 喺 carbon management 呢件事情或者喺 decarbonisation 呢件事情上面係非常之重要。好多人會睇一份 ESG report， 佢睇咩啊？睇你個 carbon emission 有幾多，但係其實 A 公司同 B 公司個 carbon emission 好難比較，甚或乎你可能會遇到一種情況就係嗰間公司個 carbon emission 做得好啲，佢條數仲大啲，因為佢 identify 到出嚟嘅會更加多。OK， 咁所以 on carbon management 最重要嗰樣嘢其實唔係你每一年個數字，而係年與年之間嗰個 delta 係幾多，而要呢個 delta 第一步你要做嘅，你就係要有個 baseline。咁所以我亦都希望咁多公司喺度可以一齊 take the first step， 我哋做好個 carbon management， 有個 baseline， 跟住我哋再講 decarbonisation。OK， 第二樣嘢我想講嘅，第三樣嘢我順便賣個廣告先。咁我哋同工總咧由2023年開始就已經開始咗個 initiative， 就係 work on CBAM 呢樣嘢啦。咁我哋2024年亦都係多得大家嘅支持啦，我哋亦都攞咗 government 嘅 funding 去做一啲嘢，為大家做啲嘢啦。咁其中一個好重要嘅一個 deliverable 就係一個 guideline for 大家去睇下點樣去做 carbon management， 點樣去做 CBAM 嘅 compliance。咁 technical 嘅嘢一定會好多嚇。我哋嗰個 CBAM 嘅 guideline， 我哋個初版咧已經去到100幾頁㗎啦，好厚一本。咁入邊有一樣嘢係非常之重要嘅，就係講個 communication。我哋會有一啲 role playing 嘅 case study 介紹俾大家嚇 ，how to manage the expectation and concerns from your fellow colleagues， 點樣去 tackle the pushback from your supplier。希望我哋呢啲努力係幫助到大家。Thank you.
Thank you. And Mohit?
Yeah, so I think just building on some of the points you made, and earlier also we heard about the fact that ESG is moving beyond the marketing, right? I think, Richard, you provided some examples of how the production, the supply chain, the procurement, the inventory, leaders need to be involved in this topic of carbon reduction, decarbonization, and implementation of new technologies that we are seeing yet. So I think herein lies the opportunity. Yeah? One is that this has to be part of your strategies. And we are hearing from different companies that once it is fully embedded, once you have a long-term roadmap, you are able to increase your stickiness with the customers, you are able to improve your market access, because more and more markets with the regulations will expect low carbon content and better ESG practices of your products. The other opportunity that we also heard about, very real-life examples, is green tech. So Deloitte did a study for Invest Hong Kong, where we looked at what is the green tech potential for Hong Kong to be a hub. Interestingly, we find out it was kind of a hidden secret. Hong Kong has actually a lot of innovation happening in green tech, in these new technologies, but probably a story not very well told. We've been working with the likes of Hong Kong Science and Technology Park and Cyberport. Interestingly, we find hundreds of companies, startup companies or mid-stage commercialization, exactly focusing on green tech. So there are indeed a lot of programs right now to promote the setup of green tech, to promote the R&D that is required for decarbonization. Globally, we know that while countries and organizations have made net zero commitments by 2050, the technology solutions do not exist for them to reach there. In fact, 40% of the carbon reduction cannot be done with the current technology solutions. So green tech itself is a big opportunity area where there is incremental and differentiated funding available, there is support from the government available, and probably new market opportunities that are available that Hong Kong companies should consider.
Thank you, Mohit. You are very right, actually, for Richard and for Mohit. You talked about a lot that these are challenges indeed, of course. We all know that. But these are also opportunities, and there are solutions, there are tech available. And also for Hong Kong, we know that we have a special role to play. And that question is for Christine. You have long proposed that Hong Kong should be the bridge between the international standards as well as, in China and also in APAC in general. So with these ongoing challenges and opportunities, what should Hong Kong do? What's the role of Hong Kong? And you have talked about, there should be more collaboration, there should be more governmental efforts. Can you elaborate more on these?
I think the word I want to share is freebie. Now, I'm different from, I think, other panelists today because I'm in the policy university sector. So we're very interested to understand how a real business solves problems, right? But it's not what we do in the university. So we aim to add value by looking across to see where we can add value, right? So just listening to all of you today, here are some what I call freebies. So the first one about green tech is I completely agree with Mohit that actually Hong Kong companies, Hong Kong technology, not doing so badly. Yeah. Now, there is one Hong Kong policy. The reason I want to say this is when we're in the policy world, we're looking at what to do that enhances everybody, right? The role of government is to do something for the whole. For your federation, you're looking to do something for the industry. And obviously, in Hong Kong, we have some very strong players already, like present company here. The stronger companies are able to say, I'm already using tech. I already have customers. The customers' demands, I'm already meeting, right? Now, what we're interested in the universities, even for these more capable companies, what more can we do that is like in the realm of what I call freebie, right, which is the policy realm. However, Hong Kong also has many other smaller companies that are struggling. If you're the government, you want to help the whole. Of course, some of them may be toe-tied, right? Some of them may not make it. But if you're the government, your thinking mindset is a little different. Okay, so the first freebie is, I think it really would help for the government to work more closely with industry to bring, for example, Hong Kong tech, Hong Kong companies that are able to solve these problems in branding Hong Kong to go overseas. Because one of the things government is paying for today, right, is to bring Hong Kong companies outside Hong Kong, because we need to do a lot more promotion. Now, when you're doing promotion, again, the freebies is actually built on what you are already doing. Richard, I'm so excited to hear about what you are already doing with the Federation. Can you imagine when you're bringing a delegation overseas next time, that is your show, right? So I think how you bring people together, how you tell the Hong Kong stories is really important. And I don't think we have maximized on this. So we can do more there. The second idea is, again, we talked to Xu Wing, right, just now. If Xu Wing, the steel we're making in Hong Kong, if the energy that they use, which is one of their primary input, is apportioned by the nuclear. Huge competitiveness, right? Now, the reason government should think like that is because government has a role to play to make everybody more competitive, right? So you have to think, what is it that we can do in Hong Kong to make our businesses here more competitive? So actually, by apportioning the 25% of the nuclear, it's genuine, I mean, it's real, right? How can we use the administrative policy to make that happen? And it can happen tomorrow, right, if we get the right policy in place. The third thing is do that for China. What China is doing, I mean, I always say thank God for China, because China is serious about decarbonization. Now, it has already built a lot of clean energy. So with Hong Kong's connection and working with the government, the first thing is the freebie will be the Chinese government negotiating with the EU government. What is it that will, I think they're already possibly thinking about this, but it will be very helpful if Hong Kong industry join in that voice. So, for example, if you're making stuff in Guangdong, Guangdong has actually quite a high proportion of energy, of electricity that is clean. Apportion that to industry, because that will help you immediately. But you must also do everything that Richard tells you to do, but it will help you immediately for 2026 and 2027. Since we also have many members, even sitting here in the Federation, who sits on CPCC and China, of the provinces in China, NPC and CPCC. This is where you want to do the same thing to get them to apply their clean energy on their exports. And it can be done, it's genuine, it's what the Europeans are doing themselves. So how can they deny us by doing the same, not to get the benefit? So these are freebies.
You're right, Christine. Actually, I think this is a good example that in an ecosystem, there are different stakeholders, there are different perspectives. And even just on these panels, we have a lot of different insights from different perspectives. So actually, we talk about solutions, we talk about mindset. And I now want to talk about action, because I want to ask the distinguished panel if there's one advice or action that you want the SMEs in the audience to take today. What's the most important first step that they should take today? Yeah. Any one of you want to take?
I think you already gave us the answer. Make sure you get the baseline, right? Your first task.
Yes. Baseline from Richard?
Yes. Actually, I think quantification is very, very important. In the first panel, we talked about sustainable finance. I think one of the key concerns in sustainable finance or government funding is greenwashing, right? The way we combat greenwashing is quantification. Once we have the environmental benefits quantified, once we have the cost allocation and stuff quantified and reasonably projected, I think the greenwashing issue can be mitigated, and thus we should have sufficient funding on all kinds of sustainable related matters.
Yeah, sure.
I think, well, if the second word I would suggest is engagement. Like, you want to engage stakeholders early, and stakeholders not, well, including suppliers, as we mentioned before, that's a very key to the carbon emission for the whole value chain, and also internal suppliers. You want to build a culture of sustainability within your company. Richard just now said that it's better if the plant manager lead this. In our experience, it's really a cross-functional project where you need the plant manager, you need the production process, you need the equipment people, but you also need the supply chain director, the people to do it. So you really want to engage all stakeholders, internal or external, to achieve this goal.
Maybe Keith? Yep.
I add to that, yes, I think the first step is really set a baseline and develop a system to collect your data. I think that's the most, from our experience, that's the most time-consuming part, because not only you want to collect it, but you have to understand if that's the correct data source. right? Most of the time you thought it was correct, but actually it's not. And secondly, you really need, like Christina said, I think you need to build a team of Avengers within your company as a cross-functional team, and they will help to cascade those ESG concepts and principles to other function teams. And finally, I think I will suggest that you regularly, or at least annually, revisit your data and validate them yourself, or even invest on having a third party to have a look at your data, because I think you can learn a lot from third party. Why do they consider that's not correct? Why is it correct? I think it's a collaboration I would say as a experience or learning experience to achieve accurate data in terms of instead of carbon.
Yeah, I think we talked a lot about data, and while it sounds daunting, I think setting the baseline is important, and we do a lot of reviews of data for many large organizations, and even they make errors. Yeah, so it does take a bit of time for you to gain confidence of the data. So starting with the data is an important first step. Second one is really, compliance become a cost if you address it at the last minute and you address it just as a tick box exercise. Then it's just a cost for you. But I think right now there should be ample evidence and engagement to consider EU regulations as a market opportunity, as a business opportunity, as a technology innovation opportunity. So I think the sooner you can start on that journey, the more successful you're likely to be.
Bill, can I add a freebie to
Sure.
the freebie
Please,
approach, right?
We all like freebies.
Yes.
Please.
So, again, from a public policy perspective, we're looking at all SMEs, right? And actually, we're also saying the front runners, actually your staff, I suspect, that if they have learned something, it's great satisfaction for individuals to be able to go and share. Now, how can this be done? This is all free stuff, right? So I think what would be very, very cost efficient is, again, for the Federation and others, including our legislators, right, to say to government for the next policy address, which is only a few months away, right, and the CE will be consulting you, asking you for ideas. Ask him for a small sum of money, just a few million Hong Kong dollars, right, to enable the organizations like yours to be able to perhaps hire some extra staff to actually do the promotion. Now, the freebie, because the government cannot do it themselves, so they must rely on others. By giving a few $1 million, spread it out to various people to hire staff to do this, is the cheapest way for Hong Kong, right? And then you can ask front-running companies, and Richard, right, to give courses to other companies that need the information. And you can also show them very practical stuff about what to do. That is free information that helps the government. I mean, this is why a few $1 million can go a long way, right? Because not everybody can hire consultants. So for government to spend that money, it's very, very good. So again, I think that is something you can ask for from the CE in a few months' time.
Bill, may I add one more point?
Yes, please.
I forgot one key point. On CBAM, organic chemical and polymers will be the next step for the EU. And when it comes to polymers, it will be huge for Hong Kong industry. And the carbon management stuff will be much, much more complicated. So let's also alert the polymer sector industries. Yeah.
Specifically, with a very good suggestion from Christine and also from Richard, that really rings the bell for a good keyword. I'm not sure if it's applicable to this scenario. It's about public-private partnership. So how should we give this a try by the model of public-private partnership? Is it, about funding in the next, policy address or what?
Don't talk money. but because what are we really trying to do, right? We're trying to raise our competitiveness. We're trying to bring everybody along. So that really is the core message. the fact that it may cost the government some money is neither here nor there. And I think it would be also really helpful for the Federation and others to already show, because government will say, well, we already spent some money, right? Which they have, but what value is it going to bring? Because if they spent the money, they want to know, 個個都拍掌啊嘛, right? So I think you need a narrative to tell them why your next step, right? The requirement for a small amount of money, where will it take you? Where will it take Hong Kong? So let that message come first.
With that, I would like to actually open now the time to the floor. Any questions from the floor to the panelists? Any question that you want to add to this very energetic discussion with the panelists? Okay, we've got actually some questions from online. Very good. Oh, all right. Let's. Okay, Ophelia.
係 ，hello， 我係 Ophelia， 多謝幾位 panelist 嘅精彩分享。咁我都係一啲中小企啦，咁都代表緊啲好多朋友都想 share 少少，即係頭先阿 Christine 講緊或者係Richard 講緊嘅一啲 baseline， 我自己都用緊 Christine 嗰個 GHG 嗰個嘅 calculations， 其實係好有用嘅。set 咗之後咧，其實對我哋自己再去 set target for next year 咧，係最容易去掌握。因為中小企實在係冇乜 resources， 亦都唔知點樣去開始。咁我頭先我都好認同 Christine 講，就希望可以政府喺 training 嗰方面咧，俾到多啲，唔係淨係老闆啦。其實要做嘅咧，其實係同事一齊做。我每一次都帶好多同事出嚟聽書去學習。咁我想即係希望啦，即係嚟緊有更多呢啲咁樣嘅機會啦，可以聽到咁多位嘅即係分享，即係多啲令到我哋中小企嘅朋友咧有多啲嘅 idea 或者係啲 positive 嘅一啲諗法喺度咯。多謝。
唔該晒 Ophelia。台下觀眾仲有冇咩問題想問？我手上咧收到一條好好嘅問題。There's a very interesting question online. I think this is actually very important because this audience, he asked about, do you see any inconsistencies between the EU's frameworks or the rules with vis-a-vis the other, rules or laws in other jurisdictions and countries? And if there's such inconsistency, would it be very hard for a actually exporter in Hong Kong to navigate? Because there could be different rules in US, in Europe, in APAC, or in China. So how are they going to comply with all these rules that could be inconsistent?
OK， 我嚟答呢個問題啦。咁首先第一樣嘢就係on carbon management，EU 可能係全世界做得最好嘅一個地方啦。咁佢哋自己嘅碳市場由2005年就已經開始做㗎啦，所以佢代表最高標準啦。咁所以 in order to fulfill the EU requirement， 其實你就已經係做到最 top 嗰個位置㗎啦。咁所以再有其他國家有類似嘅一啲 measures 咧，你應該可以應對得到。呢個係第一個。第二個，我哋講 international trade 最重要嘅一個原則係乜嘢？對等。而呢一個其實亦都係我頭先漏咗講嘅一個 impact， 就係當 EU formally introduce CBAM， 其他國家會點做啊？第一 UK 已經做咗啦，佢就將佢脱歐之後就將佢依家就將自己嘅 ETS 同 EU 嘅 ETS 綁埋一齊，咁就唔使再煩 CBAM 呢個問題啦。OK，what about Australia、Canada、Japan？ 所有人都會引入類似嘅機制 ，so that 佢可以應對得到，同埋喺international trade 入邊係對等。咁所以由 EU 開始，其實我哋將來會面對嘅喺 international trade 當中，除咗 customs duty 之外，就係 carbon tax。咁呢個係一個趨勢會發生嘅。
我諗喺呢度就加多一句啦，就係所以大陸佢嘅 effort， 大家係真係唔可以睇少嘅。因為係大陸啦，先至可以同 EU 同埋其他國家咬手瓜。咁實在中國 都喺呢度好多年都 getting ready 㗎啦。去到而家呢個地步咧，就係點樣黐埋嗰啲嘢，同埋佢將來真係去 negotiate 嘅時候咧，佢會點樣做？所以我哋大家都拭目以待，但係唔可以自己唔做嘢。
So thank you very much. I think all of us would agree that this is actually a very interesting, inspiring, and very dynamic discussion with the panel. And once again, I want to thank all the panelists, and I also want to thank the Federation for actually hosting this event. And I only want to conclude with one personal message. I think really in the spirit of one question about AI, right? We all want to talk about AI. I think one of the things that we learn from AI is to ask the right question. So if you can ask the right question, you are one step closer to get the right answer. So I think this is not the end. This is just the beginning of asking the right questions. So once again, thank you very much for all the audience and also the speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the fruitful discussion. Please return to your seats. 我哋有請咧現場咁多位繼續留步，或者線上朋友都繼續留步嘅，因為一陣間咧 Clara 就會透露一個好重要嘅消息嘅嚇。嗱，經過咗呢一個上午嘅討論同埋交流啦，各位嘉賓咧討論咗中小企喺應用 ESG 合規要求嘅時候遇到嘅挑戰啦，分享咗唔少成功嘅經驗。第二節咧就集中討論咗歐盟以至全球對於 ESG 嘅要求。相信大家聽咗我哋專家同埋企業代表分享之後咧，更加掌握到全球嘅最新情況，係獲益良多嘅。我哋工總2021年呢已經係成立咗環境、社會及管治委員會 ESG 委員會，促進工業界參與香港達至2050年前碳中和嘅目標，透過能力建設、知識交流同埋培育工業 ESG 人才，協助工業界喺企業內咧實踐 ESG 嘅管理。今日嘅論壇咧正正係工總進行緊嘅 ESG 項目其中一個部分，未來會繼續相關嘅工作嘅。而家咧我哋就有請香港工業總會常務副主席、環境、社會及管治委員會主席陳婉珊女士為我哋作活動總結同埋閉幕致辭。有請 Clara 主席。
I'm sure that all of you have enjoyed our very insightful panels and also the keynote speaker this morning. So as we draw this year's APAC ESG Summit for SMEs to a close, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Professor Ba and all of our distinguished speakers and panelists for their invaluable contributions today. This summit has served a timely and meaningful platform for dialogue, learning, and collaboration. The insights shared have deepened our collective understandings of the evolving ESG landscape and the strategic imperatives it presents for Hong Kong's manufacturing enterprise. We are honored to have Professor Ba deliver the keynote address, offering a comprehensive overview of global ESG regulatory developments, from the ISSB disclosure standards to recent EU and Hong Kong initiatives. His remark underscores the growing compliance pressures on SMEs and the importance of strategic readiness, policy alignment, and capacity building. And our panel discussions have further enriched the conversation. Panel 1 explored sustainable supply chain practice, highlighting the circular economy, green initiatives, and also the balance between cost and sustainability. And Panel 2 addressed the implications of EU regulations, particularly the CBAM, and emphasized the need for early preparation, innovation, policy support to ensure continued competitiveness. Looking ahead, FHKI remains committed to supporting Hong Kong manufacturers in their ESG journey. We are currently developing a carbon management guidelines, which will provide a practical guidelines for the Hong Kong manufacturing enterprise, including sector-specific insights on CBAM. In parallel, we are preparing a carbon management online platform to offer accessible resources on compliance and carbon management. And we are also truly grateful to our supporting organizations. As addressed by Professor Loke and also Richard earlier, that we cannot do this alone, and we have to align with all the manufacturing and SMEs associations on this sustainability journey. And we are grateful for the organization support, which include the Hong Kong General Chambers of Commerce, the Chinese Manufacturers Association of Hong Kong, the Chinese General Chambers of Commerce, Business Environmental Council, Hong Kong Federations of Innovative Technologies and Manufacturing Industries, the Hong Kong Metals Manufacturers Association, and the Hong Kong Metals Merchants Association. Lastly, I would like to thank all participants for your engagement and support. Your presence today has made this summit an impactful occasion. Let us continue working together to embed ESG as a strategic priority, one that drives resilience, innovations, and sustainable growth for the futures of our industries. Thank you so much.
多謝晒 Clara 主席。今日嘅亞太區中小企 ESG 論壇已經圓滿結束，再次感謝各位蒞臨同埋支持。希望大家離開之前用1分鐘嘅時間，可以掃一掃而家熒幕上面嘅 QR code， 填一份簡單嘅問卷，就住今日嘅論壇俾啲寶貴意見我哋啊！咁工總今年踏入65週年，未來會有一系列精彩嘅活動㗎，希望下一次活動再見到大家。多謝各位，下次再見 ，Thank you。